here in St. Louis, Missouri. Doing a tape here on hedonistic sorcery, gnosis, sexual alchemy in the left-hand path. As here, right here we got Brother RAGANORok Osmodius here, and he gonna.
I'm gonna do like, I'm the introduction. It's really my man Roz, you know, brainchild. I'm just gonna make it brief as I can, compact, and try to put as much preliminary information down as I can. First, we're gonna start off with, I guess, a brief description of the left-hand path. First, I guess the prerequisite to embarking on the left-hand path would be swearing your soul to good and swearing it against evil. But by this, I don't mean good in the sense of giving to charity and helping some nun across the street and some shit like that. Good is, from an evolutionary point of view, from an occult point of view, is anything that helps to awaken you from your hypnotic sleep. Bad is anything that helps to maintain that hypnotic sleep. So, in that sense, evil can be your mama. That's always against your motherfucking evolution. It's always against everything you try to do to rise up. Evil can be the worship of God, any God. Faith, just blind fucking faith based upon nothing. All these serve to keep you in a state of permanent hypnotic sleep. The left-hand path is also based upon self-deification, the path against nature and against God. Because contrary to a lot of the Afrocentric bullshit that's out there, from my common sense point of view, illumination and enlightenment is not a natural thing. And if so, show me, I don't see any proof of any civilization ever having an entire civilization of enlightened beings. People go to Kemet and the pyramids and Sphinx. Those, we had the priesthood. But the majority of the people were simple, slave-minded fools just going on, being vampirized by creator beings, creator deities, and here for the sole purpose of recycling, reincarnation, live, birth, life, suffering, death, and reincarnation. And that's the endless cycle for 99% of the human population. And to show this, I want to go to a couple people's writings here. We have here to show that God is totally against your enlightenment. I mean, the Matrix movie showed you that. The Matrix, what's my man's name, Lawrence Fishburne, Morpheus, he held up a battery and showed Neo, this is your purpose. Your purpose is to be an energy source, raw materials for the purposes of God's continuance and your continuance in slavery. And so I'm going to go to a damn good book here called The Stellar Man by John Baines. And he based his shit solely upon, primarily upon anyway, the Hermetic and Gnostic teachings. Gnostic teachings, they were basically the custodians of pre-dynastic Egyptian wisdom, more so Lemurian, Atlantean, Typhonian, Draconian sciences. And so we're going to go to page 32, where he says, John Baines says, according to Hermetic tradition, when the Supreme Creator expelled man from paradise, he punished him by embedding in his brain a mechanism of hypnotic sleep in order to make him an obedient servant in the vineyards of the Lord. So, according to this, according to Gnostic and Hermetic texts, it was God himself who embedded in humanity, in the brains of human beings, the mechanism of hypnotic sleep. In other words, he made it natural law for man to be a slave, plain and simple. There's something else in here he talks about. I can find it real quick. Okay, he says here, we can see from the skillful, well, that's irrelevant. He said the evolutionary plan of the sapiens, which is animal man, which is 99% of the human population, which must adjust to certain rules of the game. The general rules are the following. The sapiens is not and cannot be free, being collectively considered a species. The sapiens must be born, suffer, love, become sick and die, reproduce, build up civilizations and destroy them only for the benefit of invisible superior powers who capitalize on the vital product. He goes on to say, and the God, he says, and doesn't the sapiens profit from other animal species? Are there no animals which only exist to feed sapiens? Minerals feed upon cosmic rays, plants on minerals, animals on plants. Man feeds on all these, and the gods feed on man. The sapiens is therefore a slave in perpetuity. Nevertheless, individual or isolated beings separated from the group may become free. I can end it right there.
Right.
You know, what's up?
Who's the author of that book?
John Baines.
John Baines. Thank you.
So he's showing here that man is food for the gods, just like, you know, cattle is food for man or whatever. And he's saying man is a slave in perpetuity, endless slavery. But isolated beings separated from the group may become free. In other words, it's not natural, ever natural, for the whole of humanity to become enlightened. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. The masses can't accomplish anything, ever. And I think Gurdjieff explained that in a way where he explained that somebody asked him a question, why is knowledge not given to everybody? And so he said, it's impossible. Being a product of the physical universe, knowledge is matter to a degree, only in a more subtle sense. He said that any form of matter is limited in its quantity. So therefore, he gave the analogy, what if you tried to gold plate a certain amount of things in a specific room? You have a certain amount of gold, and you can only gold plate a certain amount of things. But you try to gold plate more than you're supposed to. So now you have splotches of gold on this book, splotches of it here, splotches of it there. And now the shit looks worse than it did before you put the gold on it, because you didn't have enough gold to go around. So he said, therefore, you should be selfish with your knowledge. Only a select few, only a select few can escape from prison. If everybody try to escape, it's going to be noticeable. Only a select few can escape, maybe 15 or 20 at a time. So basically, it's not natural for the masses to ever illuminate. The masses is just decoys, fodder, I guess you could say. They're just decoys, you know, send them on a mission while we over here illuminating. Because if the overseers see that everybody's trying it, then ain't shit gonna happen. And that's why we get so many, just today, trying to put this lecture together. Me and my man Rob, we went through so much shit, I damn near almost didn't make it over here. Because I just couldn't get my shit together, and, you know, it took a lot of effort against the natural law to make it over here. And, see, I just want to read that. He also says here, if a sapiens individual desires to evolve, he must convert himself into a mutant for whom evolution exists. So you have to actually genetically mutate, which the X-Men movie was based upon, which actually, not just the movie, the comic books, which came about maybe in the early 50s and 60s. And so obviously somebody knew something back then. I think Reverend Valentine, he explains that he gives a good analysis of the X-Men movies on his lecture. Can't think of the name of it. Spectral Glyphs. You know the name of that, man? He did it at the Hemet Summit.
I heard of that.
Yeah, and
I can't remember the name of it, though.
He did a good analysis of that movie, showing that they were talking basically about we are the one that is supposed to mutate and bypass the circuitry of our double helix DNA.
Could you explain what you mean by mutate? We're supposed to turn into mutants?
Yeah, actually mutate. We got supposed to become more than human.
More than human? Okay.
Human is just something that's just, as he said in here, sapiens, animal man. Our DNA, we have something that's called junk DNA. That's the DNA that hasn't been awakened, it's been likened to the dismembering of Osiris. When they cut him into pieces and then he was reawakened by Isis, well, that's the reawakening of the junk DNA. So, in other words, 99% of the population's junk DNA is totally inactive.
So becoming a mutant means like becoming non-human.
Exactly.
More than
Exactly.
More than human.
More
Exactly.
than human. But
Superhuman and beyond.
we always say that the white man is a mutant. So is that good for his age?
Right.
Stop using that term
yeah,
from the white folks.
yeah, that's just, and then you have,
Clarify as far as the lack of,
Mutation could be negative or positive.
right, you have,
That could be negative or positive.
right, it could be negative or positive. You know, if
He's
you,
talking about a positive mutation, a continuation of the development of the species, as opposed to a degeneration of the species.
right. And the white man was just a fucking lab
White
experiment
man
gone
is
wrong.
recessive. The white man is recessive.
Right,
Okay, recessive puts it on the negative tip.
right. And then the thing is, I say, you know, white man was a genetic experiment, you know, gone bad. The Frankenstein movies and books show you that. And so, yeah, I mean, they even had that in the Freemasonry ritual, where they had the cable toe look somewhat like,
I got a question.
was a,
I need to digress. We were talking about God, okay? And God made us to be slaves.
right,
Basically, we have a parasitic relationship with God.
Right.
Basically, that's what you would say. And under a totally loving situation, if existence came into being because of love and all this other stuff, then that couldn't be the case.
I don't believe existence came into being because of love and all that other stuff.
Well, so, okay, if our existence is only to be a meal for the parasites, then our existence must be real limited itself. If all we are is just food for the gods,
right.
what does that really say about us?
It says that we were thrown, we're cattle. That's exactly what it says. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go to this here. Going to the Gnostic text.
Yeah, but how could that be right? How could
I mean, see, it's not, I'm not,
He gonna drop on that.
Lords of the Left-Hand Path by Stephen Edward Flowers, PhD. And he goes into a little Gnostic text, basically, which is, like I said, they're the custodians of Typhonian philosophy. That was predates Christianity, Islam, and all that stupid shit, and gets right down to it. Is you know, is unapologetic, and they call it as they see it.
You should say it precedes revealed religion. Because all of your revealed
By the way, this tape is for the.
By Stephen.
This tape here ain't for the faint-hearted.
Stephen E. Flowers.
So let's just make that known now. This ain't no shit for nobody just got into the Afrocentric movement.
Right.
Or no shit like that. This is for those who have been on the path for a while.
Right.
And is into this esoteric mysticism, the occult, and all that. This is not for the faint-hearted. So please, those are viewing the tape. If you're viewing the tape right now, and you are starting to get uncomfortable with things that my brother right here is dropping on, you need to turn the tape off and go back and get you some more information and things of that nature.
Right.
Before you get into this, because you fuck around and fuck yourself up.
Right. And like I said, right, I mean, whether it's right or not, like I said, I'm not basing on because I want the divine being, there to be some divine purpose. You know, I study the text, and just from experience, I don't mean just everyday physical experience. I mean experience because of occult practices, things that I've always heard people say when I first got into shit, into this movement, into the consciousness movement. I'd read stuff and they'd say, well, you know, this, that, and this and that, but I can't explain this experience, and that would frustrate me. I'm like, what kind? That's not good fucking. You're not a good author. What you mean you can't explain it? But now that I've experienced this type of shit 10, 11, 12 years later, I truly can't speak on. I can't, there's no words to describe things I've experienced. But going back to the Gnostic text, Stephen Flowers, he's going to the Gnosticism. Like I said, this is ancient Hermetic text. This is ancient Typhonian, Draconian text. The pre-human knowledge, the knowledge of what we came. They kept the knowledge of what we were and what we became based upon God. These are this is the stuff that Christianity hid. because they knew that it would have an impact on the masses if they used their common sense and checked it out. He says, and I left my Nag Hammadi library, which is the actual Gnostic text, but we're going to go into
We're going to do a part 2 on that.
some of the analysis on it. He says here, well, Gnosticism departs from the Iranian model is in the belief that the world and the physical universe is actually the creation of the evil dark spirit, not just the zone between the spirits of light and darkness. For the Gnostic, material creation is a priori evil and must therefore be the result of a creative act on the part of an evil God. And we can look around and see this world ain't fucking perfect, ain't nothing beautiful about it. As much as we try to talk that old, the old lofty bullshit about, oh, we love it. We got every motherfucker in here probably on papers or some shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, have been, will be, or already is. Tornadoes, motherfucker. My man was just talking about something fell on his van and shit, and rapes, molestation. Ain't shit beautiful about this shit. And if God is all-powerful and all-loving, how can both exist at one time? Mm-hmm. If you're all-powerful but don't want evil to exist, how does it exist unless something more powerful than you makes it exist? Or you're just inefficient and can't stop the shit because you're ignorant.
Or you produce it.
Or he's producing it. Or he's producing.
That's what I believe. That's what I believe he's doing. Because that shit, the way they control these worlds, these principalities, they shit is Trump tight.
Right.
Black people still suffer.
Yeah, but now you're getting into the character of God. And that's what I'm talking about. What type of God would create some stuff like that?
A fucked up God. A fucked up God.
What type of God?
A God that...
Do we have a character profile of this personality?
We reading it.
What are the things that distinguish them from the good ones?
For all you Christians out there.
Let him drop, man. Let him do what he do. Let him do what he do.
And it goes on here. This is from Simon Magus. That Simon taught that the one mind, the true God of light, had nothing to do with the creation of the material universe, and that in fact the one mind was not even aware of its existence. This world, he taught, was the creation of a wicked demiurge, whom he identified with the creator of Jewish tradition, Old Testament God, the God that kicked you out for trying to learn something. It is because he had determined Yahweh, Elohim, to be evil that he concluded that his laws were also actually wicked and led men to evil, not to good. This being is the root of Simon's libertinism and antinomianism, the practice of willfully breaking normative codes to attain higher spiritual truths. And he goes on to say that Gnostic sects hold that the material world is ruled by an evil force, and most say that the material world is actually the creation of the evil demiurge. What might be surprising is that when Gnostic thinking is applied to the Judeo-Semitic myth of Genesis, a picture which is the absolute reversal of the conventional understanding emerges. In the Gnostic mind, the Yahweh Elohim of Genesis is identified as the demiurge, creator God of this world, that is the evil one. Yahweh called Yaldabaoth by many Gnostic sects, which I'm going back to John Baines in a minute on that, called Yaldabaoth by many Gnostic sects, created the world and the natural parts of humanity, but tried to keep mankind in slavery and darkness, separate from the transcendent light. The savior of humanity is the serpent, in Hebrew Nakash, who is the bringer of light from beyond the cosmos. So he's the bringer of light from outside of natural law. The black light, the light that has its, we dealing with white light, which has 7 spectrums. We're talking about black light, which has the missing 353 spectrums, which makes it a complete 360 spectrums of light, as opposed to the shit we see in the rainbow. The Yahweh called, no, I just read that. And then he goes on to show that, here's a picture of, an old Gnostic picture of the Savior. This is an old picture of the Savior on the cross. But on this one, the Savior has the head of an ass, which was the animal form of Set, which later became Set on a Satan. So showing that the Savior was he who was against God and brought light from outside. He was against nature. And this even goes with Jesus riding into Jerusalem on an ass that he stole. He had somebody steal. Matter of fact, speaking of Set, since I'm thinking about it, Set and the and his zootypes, his animal forms. Another one was the pig, and another one was the pig. And in The Golden Bough by George, I think his name is George Fraser, and in Celestial Ship of the North by, I can't think of her name right now. She showed that the early Hebrews, which she called the Negroes, she said the Negro Hebrew God, the original Hebrew God, was Set. Set's type was the pig. So the ban against eating pig ain't had shit to do with no beautiful ass dietary shit. So all those Muslims, Hebrews, Christians who don't eat pig, I mean, I understand from it's a nasty ass piece of meat point of view, but most motherfuckers doing it from a religious point of view. They doing it based upon the opposite of what they claim they worship. They really, their original reason for not wanting to eat the pig was Satan worship.
Same thing with Hathor.
Exactly. In India with the cow. Exactly. So its original was about Satan worship. So all those who just doing it for no fucking reason but eat everything else on the fucking menu, and they ain't got no good reason why a chicken or fucking beef is better than pig. You just doing it based upon the original Set worship. And he shows in here where he says here, the drawing scratched in the plaster of a schoolroom wall, of Gnostic schoolroom wall, depicts a donkey-headed figure being crucified with a man raising his hand below the figure. An inscription reads, in bad Greek, Alexamenos worships God. The donkey-headed figure is in this cultural context to be identified with Set Typhon, by this time a god of evil in the Helleno-Egyptian mythology. So at least for some, Jesus had perhaps been identified with Set Typhon. Perhaps he was seen as the son of this god. So in other words, the Savior was seen as that which is opposite to he who created this universe. Your Allah, your Yehovah, or whatever, you know, whatever name you want to use at the time. But going back to the name Yaldabaoth, or Yah, or Yahweh, John Baines says that, let me find it, this was key.
Yeah, I like this part. I like that. I know what you're talking about.
He called him Y. He just gave it an abbreviation, Y. He says that after lengthy preparations done in deep solitude, he effected the ritual, speaking of Moses, the ritual ceremony with magic words and corresponding invocations. In the midst of amazing atmospheric and telluric phenomena, an impressive being appeared, making Moses tremble with fear and panic due to the tremendous force he projected. Although we know Moses never fucking existed, but it's an allegory. It would never be possible to know or even imagine the conditions under which the pact was made between man and heaven. The angel agreed to everything Moses requested and promised his help, demanding the strictest obedience in return. He revealed his name as Y and requested, this is Yaldabaoth, or Yahweh, Yod-He-Vohe, all of that, and requested that as a sign of union, all his followers should undergo a small ritual type of surgical operation with a light discharge of blood. Every man who underwent this would grow to be a son of Y, or the sons of Yah. The blood that was shed sealed the pact. From that day forward, Moses was invested with superhuman powers and started doing all kinds of magical feats, converting the Ark of the Covenant into the center of his power. Plagues and calamities fell over Egypt, and unbelievers and rebels were struck by the wrath of Y. In this manner, Moses' people started the Exodus that would last 40 years. We read this all in the New Testament, how God fucking up everybody. You know, he's telling everybody else don't kill, but he's not setting a good example. Later, Y, the occult power behind the leader, suddenly started to change his procedures by formulating strange demands, all of which had as a common denominator the shedding of blood. Moses was seized with fear and started to become aware of the error committed, as he then understood the divine angel was in truth an angel of darkness, the complete opposite of the luminous power he had intended to evoke. So in here they got it saying it was Moses' fucking fault that this motherfucking fucked up God is ruling over us and vampirizing us. That this infernal angel was a member of the host of shadows, a vampire that needed to feed on human blood. And that's all you see in the Old Testament. Bloodshed, everywhere they go. That motherfucker say, we kill the women, children, and the cattle. You say, in essence, charged with the vitality conferred by the divine spark, talking about the blood. That's also the nefesh in Hebrew, the divine light, which shows that the blood is correlated with Lucifer, the color red with the divine light, Lucifer being the light bringer. This is why all through the Exodus so many blood-shedding incidents occurred, provoked by the occult dictator. In reality, who was why? One can say he was a very ancient being, according to his evolution, whose origin is unknown. Through long periods of cosmic time, this being kept his individuality, but unfortunately his evolution was directed toward negative, black and destructive concepts, much like a human being who grows bitter with the passing of time and adopts a negative concept of life. Many beings similar to why exist in the universe. That's why up until damn near yesterday, there were no monotheistic fucking concepts. All religions had polytheistic concepts. They knew there were many beings on their ass. The devas of the Hindu, of the Vedic philosophy. I'm sure my man Rod gonna drop on that. All the deities of the, even a lot of the, some of the Kemetic deities. As Bobby Hemmett dropped, some of those deities were fucked up and had us enslaved. Even some of the Vodun entities. There's many beings similar to why exist in the universe. Fortunately, the magnetic defenses of the planet constitute an impenetrable barrier for those beings, which I somewhat disagree with because that barrier, that canopy was ruptured in the 40s, starting with Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard with the Babylon workings. And also, during that time, the first atomic bombs were dropped. And all of a sudden, you start seeing, that's when UFO sightings blew the fuck up. That canopy was breached. And so now, you know, these entities are in here. I know they're in here because they be fucking with me sometimes. You know, I got to do rituals to keep them off my ass and shit. So, however, Moses' magical ritual opened the door and cleared a way through which Y could penetrate to the earth. So he's showing basically that natural laws, which are God's laws, God himself is fucked up. He made us for the sole purpose of slavery, as the machines did on the Matrix. Humans are not born anymore, they're grown. And he even says in here that God's, I guess, denizens are called archons in the Gnostic scripts. Those are the ones who help to keep shit in line, keep humans in line. He says here, the Hermetic tradition calls archons, his double manifestation of life and death, light and shade, dreams and wakefulness, bases his power until able to act concretely through certain angels, which the Hermetic tradition calls archons or lords of destiny, who direct the evolutionary plan. With reference to sapiens, or animal man, 99% of the population, this plan is maintained by virtue of dream energy. They ain't shit but the Matrix. Their whole existence was maintained by virtue of dream energy only. Once they woke up, they got out that motherfucker. As can be seen by he's talking about a diagram he got in another part of the book. Nevertheless, the divine irradiation of luminous energy, which we call vigilance or wakefulness, reaches the planet Earth, but is not manifested in sapiens. So it reaches the planet Earth, but we have to go by means that are contrary to nature to be able to absorb these energies of wakefulness. It says dream energy, directed or manipulated by the archons, maintains the programming of the system, even down to the smallest group, the family. So then he goes into the family. You know, your family's probably the most fucked up people you know. You know, even in the Bible they speak of Jesus talking about, you know, you gotta hate your mama and your daddy to love me.
Let me get this right. So what you're saying is the programming element is your dream? No, the program it's a dream energy. Basically everything we see, we know is illusory. Right. But even though we claim we know this, we fall asleep the next minute and take everything as though it's real. We're dreaming once again. So this whole construct is maintained based on dream energy. Once Neo woke up, he knew the Matrix was fake. He could fly and shit after that. He knew that he can disobey natural laws after that. You know, jumping over buildings, all this type of shit, floating in the air. So it's a dream energy that's basically all throughout the atmosphere. They call it man lives in a somnambulistic state. He defines that in here as, this is a good book. This is definitely one that definitely needs to be copped if you ain't got it. And he John Baines. Right. And he
let me ask you this, bro. Now, you said that this God that's controlling all this fucked up shit, he did this shit because like of a person that's bitter all their life and whatnot. And this is like retaliation.
It was almost like, as you said in the Bible, I'm a jealous God.
Okay. How is this motherfucker keeping all this power? How is he keeping us?
Because most of us pray to his ass and feed him.
Vampire.
That's the energy. You see on church steeples, they got something like a tall pyramid.
Right.
That's sending the energy into the atmosphere that it needs to feed off of. Most of us praying to some motherfucking God for some reason or another. And that's the energy that keeps him alive.
Well, how do we work that motherfucking energy? Get the fuck out of here.
We're going to get on that. We're going to
Right.
get into that.
Yeah, that's where the sexual alchemy part come in.
We're going to get into that.
Yeah, we ain't even got close to that part yet.
That's why they got us all locked up so we won't be fucking.
Exactly. And then when motherfuckers is locked up, they start fucking each other. Right. And they love to harness that perverted aspect of the sexual energy. Men, dicks in men.
Well, that ain't doing shit.
You know what I'm saying? But it's all, see, the thing is, all sex has an energy. Well, that's why some of the motherfuckers have fuck dogs, animals, whatever in their rituals. But depending on the quality of energy you're trying to use, that's the type of sex you have. And so these motherfuckers get in here fucking each other in the ass and shit in prison. They don't know, all that energy just being dispersed. Right. But at the same time, these motherfuckers doing rituals. That's another way these gods are staying in place, because these white boys out here doing rituals every motherfucking day, all day.
Damn right.
I mean, blood rituals, sacrificing, cutting the throats of babies and shit. They doing that type of exactly. While we weekend library gurus, you know what I'm saying? We hook up on the weekend and light incense and claim we just did some immaculate shit. While they doing some for real shit all the time. These motherfuckers knock down buildings and kill Princess Diana as a ritual. They doing big shit. We doing shit like burning a motherfucking piece of parchment paper. All that type of shit. But I'm trying to find where he defines somnambulistic in the state that man lives in. He said, due to his cerebral programming, that mechanism in the brain that God put in there, and other little-known phenomena, the human being lives in a permanent somnambulistic state. What is a somnambulist? The dictionary defines somnambulism as an abnormal sleep state during which the person gets up, walks, and sometimes talks. Expanding this definition, somnambulism could be seen as sleep that affects all humanity, during which people get up, walk, fight, love, hate, enjoy, suffer, think, procreate, live, grow old, and die without ever being aware of their hypnotic condition. And that's the main obstacle. Most motherfuckers, you tell them they're asleep, they swear them down, they ain't. Who's gonna try to achieve something that they think they already got? So if you think you're awake then, and which is most of us, leave the motherfuckers alone. We try to force feed the motherfucking shit and it don't work. It never works. And they be them same motherfuckers who, after a while, you see them back in motherfucking church with,
Right. Try to light them and them bitches start praying hard.
Right. Man, so anyway, let me go to a little more on this concept of the demiurge and the Gnostic concept. Then we're going to go into a little of the Necronomicon mythos, the H.P. Lovecraft mythos, which is profound. And he didn't even know what the fuck he was writing. All he knew was they came to him in dreams, and he was what was been called a slave of Awas.
This book here?
No, this is, I'm going to go into that in this magazine article here. But this is just a little bit more on the,
about Crowley?
No, we're talking about H.P. Lovecraft.
H.P. Lovecraft. Let me go into this a little bit.
Him and Crowley were into the same thing, weren't they?
I don't even know if they ever even met.
Well, no, they wasn't.
See, and then Crowley's was a conscious effort. Lovecraft was used as a slave by basically our breathing on higher dimensions, sending shit down to help as many of us out as possible. And so H.P. Lovecraft hated niggas. Matter of fact, in one of these books I got down there, he hated niggas. But at the same time, so that was his punishment. We're gonna use this motherfucker to enlighten niggas through his fictional novels, so-called fictional novels. But this one book down here proved that the shit was real. It's also called the Necronomicon by what was his name? George Hay, I believe. Let me find it real quick. I know I didn't forget that motherfucker. Necronomicon by George Hay. And he went on to prove that Necronomicon, even though H.P. Lovecraft was a novelist. He put it in novel form, but he showed that it was real, going back to pre-Sumerian to Atlantean shit. Matter of fact, before I go into more than Gnostic shit, he says in here that that's being blatantly talking about us. He said, in the ancient Indian treatise known as the Rig Veda, we read of Dasayu and Dasa, the dark folk, the superhuman enemies of mankind who live underground. So when we talk about superhuman entities living underground, according to popular mythology, is hell. But in esoteric lore, underground could be considered in the subconscious of the mind. Superhuman, the dark folk, the superhuman entities of mankind who live underground, and of those strange prototypes from prehistory described as giants, or the Nephilim, or the Anunnaki, the Titans, the biggest mountains, demons like trees walking, the tiger-headed Rakshasas, and the ugly Vaitikas with one wing and one eye. Peruvian myth tells of the Vachines, darklings, or rayless ones, the inhabitants of primeval earth. Red Indian legend enshrines Kamasats, Lord of the Bats, which goes to the Count Dracula myth, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. A hideous hybrid creature with leathery wings and serpents growing from its face. Now he's blatantly talking about black folks here, but they put it in mythological forms, which basically ancient mythology was nothing but what we read as Scientific America today. That was their scientific journals. They thought with different parts of the brain, so they wrote differently. They wrote poetically. We look at it as stories and shit, and they talking about scientific principles. But going back to a little bit more of the Gnostic shit, in this book, Black Arts, Richard Cavendish, excellent book. He goes on here, page 285. He says, the human wives, he's talking about the watchers. Wait a minute. Okay, and when men could no longer sustain them, talking about the Nephilim, the fallen ones, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. That's esoteric lore for basically getting the fuck out of physical existence. They devoured mankind, and they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and to drink the blood. God sent the archangel Raphael to imprison Azazel, which was the angel on fallen that Denzel was dealing with, in the desert to the last judgment, when he was to be hurled into eternal fire. Now we can go back to that. God sent the archangel Raphael to imprison Azazel in the desert to the last judgments. Okay, now, who was Azazel? We're going to go into who Azazel was and show how that's relevant, what that means. Lost Secrets of the Sacred Ark by Lawrence Gardner. He says in here, he goes into the Azazel shit. Page 88. He says here, the term alchemy comes from the Arabic alchemy, the blackness, and is defined as the science which overcomes the blackness, or that which enlightens through intuitive perceptions. Alchemy also had an association with the mysterious Kim of Mendes, often portrayed as a goat and identified with a certain angelic Azazel of Capricorn. Kim of Mendes is, the goat of Mendes is Baphomet, the black goat. So when we say that Azazel was imprisoned by God through Raphael, hurled down to earth, Azazel, who is Kim, who represents melanin, was imprisoned by God on earth, then we're obviously talking about the original black folks, the Titans, the Nephilim, whatever mythology you read in the Asuras of Vedic texts. We're obviously talking about black folks, basically, the primeval black folks. Azazel being Kim of Mendes, being melanin. And so he goes on here to say, what was it? Okay, God sent the archangel Raphael to imprison Azazel in the desert till the last judgment, when he was to be hurled into eternal fire. The other watchers were made to look on while their children the giants were killed. Then God told the archangel Michael to bind the angels in the valleys of the earth until the day when they would be cast into everlasting torment in the abyss of fire. But the earth was not purged of evil. Demons issued from the bodies of the dead giants and have remained in the world ever since, causing wickedness, destruction, and oppression. Demons issued from the body of the dead giants, the Titans, the Nephilim, us. We are the demons they're talking about. The demons that that church got you screaming against and shit. Got you putting up some devil-ass, hippie-looking ass motherfucker named Jesus on your wall telling he gonna save you from this motherfucking, from these demons. Save you from yourself. That goes back to that dream you was talking about with the higher self chasing her. You said the sister was being chased by a shadow by a dark cloud in her dream. But since we've been programmed to be against everything dark, we tend to run from it. So she's running from her higher self. That's basically what they can represent. So, I'm going to read a little bit more, then we're going to try to get more into the hedonistic sorcery and the sexual alchemy part of this shit. Richard Cavendish, Cavendish. Let me go here real quick. I'm just trying to, you know, really beat this in the head, showing how, you know, our ancient, I guess, secular communities, those who separated themselves from the main and the whole of society, like I said, those who decided to go against nature and knew that the masses couldn't be enlightened. I'm trying to show what these little communities, the shit that they wrote down, and things like the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Copper Scrolls, all this type of shit. It says here, worship of the devil as a good God naturally involves the belief that the Christian God, the Father, the God of the Old Testament, was and remains an evil God, hostile to man, and the enemy of morality and truth. In full-blown Satanism, Jesus Christ is also condemned as an evil being. He goes on to say here, if God the Father and God the Son, the creators of Jewish and Christian law and ethics, are thought to be evil, the necessary result is the denial of the whole Judeo-Christian moral code and the conventional rules which are based on it. The followers of the devil are intensely excited by and preoccupied with sensual pleasure and worldly achievement. Now, we're not talking about followers in the sense of just changing the name to Satan and being a blind faith-having motherfucker. We're talking about worship in its ancient form, which I'm going to get into, show where the word comes from. Let me see here. It says, they revel in self-assertion and dominance, lust, dirt, violence, cruelty, and all passionate sensations. I'm talking about our pre-human state, that pre-human state, the Cthulhu, which H.P. Lovecraft dropped on, which we're going to get into in a minute. Christian piety, with its virtues of otherworldliness, self-denial, humility, cleanliness of heart and mind, they condemn as spineless, colorless, and dead. It says here, devil worship, that's not what I want you to read there. For any Gnostic, it has been observed the world is really hell. So all motherfuckers talking about the world is so beautiful, blah, blah, bullshit. Prove it. Convinced that the world is thoroughly evil, the Gnostics could not believe that it had been created by a good God. The world was made and is governed by lesser deities called archons, rulers who are either actively hostile to God or do not know that God exists. They mean the pre-creator God. The one who, you know, don't even give a fuck about this world because it's too far below its frequency, which is our soul, which is archetypal melanin. For some Gnostics, the archons were the gods of the planets, the guardians who barred the way to the human soul when it tried to ascend through the spheres after death. So in other words, the ones who say, go into the light, and next thing you know, we reincarnated into another human body. All the ancient philosophies were against reincarnation. We got Buddhism, Hinduism, which says, you know, reach nirvana. They're trying to escape the cycle of reincarnation. So obviously, if the world's so beautiful, why are they trying to escape the cycle of reincarnation? If the world's so beautiful, they'd be trying to come back here. But, like I said, 99% of people don't quite make it there. So now we're going to get, I want to get into a little Lovecraft mythos. I'm going to read a lot of this shit. This is some shit, if you can relate it to us, is extremely profound. This is out from a book, Slept On magazine, called Paranoia. Paranoia. It's a magazine with many, many contributors. Issue 34, winter of 2004. I pick these up whenever I can find them. You know how niggas do. I ain't keep saying I'm gonna get a motherfucking subscription and they ain't done the shit yet. And the name of the article is Dead But Dreaming, Lovecraft's Cthulhu Reinterpreted as Sumerian Atlantean Kings. Okay. Says here, let me see. The demons of the Cthulhu mythos. Cthulhu is the dead but dreaming, pre-human beast, monster of Lovecraft's novels. The demons of the Cthulhu mythos are the same personages as the gods of Sumer and the fallen angels who spawned the Grail family. You know, the King Arthur shit. Said the Grail blood and Lovecraft's bloodline of the great old ones are synonymous. And I think it was Gareth Knight in his book on the Arthurian legend said that the Grail blood is the blood of the Titans, which is melanin. So it said the Grail blood and Lovecraft's blood of the great old ones are synonymous, as are the sea monsters Leviathan and Dagon, the gods of the underworld recorded in the legends of every ancient culture. Says here, a cursory examination of H.P. Lovecraft's quintessential work, The Call of Cthulhu, will reveal that the entire system of mythology upon which his story is based comes from the Book of Enoch, the Nephilim story in Genesis, and the universal tale of the fall of Atlantis. Its appearance described as that, he says, Lovecraft's main character in Cthulhu finds a strange carved idol in his granduncle's effects. Its appearance described as that of an octopus, a dragon, and a human caricature, scaly body, rudimentary wings. Scaly body, we're talking about the reptilian mythos that David Icke gets into, which when you really go further and further back, the reptilians were nothing but those who had a constant active kundalini energy constantly flowing through the body. The discovery of this idol leads to his investigation and uncovering of a sinister, age-old cult of Cthulhu, which worshiped the creature represented by the idol and the entire race of demons from whence he came. He goes on to say, because I know a man's going to get into Dagon in a little bit, and says, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord, and the head of Dagon and his hands were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him. Dagon is the character upon which Satan or Lucifer is based, but his physical description applied to an entire race of gods, described in the Bible as the Nephilim, the fallen angels or the Watchers. Lovecraft called them the great old ones. These are the ones who existed before God. The Watchers, those who were cast down, are described in the book of Enoch literally as stars that descended to earth. In the book of the law, Aleister Crowley says every man is a star. So he's talking about humanity, who was cast down by the creator gods. Cthulhu is described as having wings, another attribute of the Nephilim, who according to our research were real flesh and blood beings. The Nephilim, also known as the Anunnaki, ruled over a global kingdom in the antediluvian world, the capital of which was Atlantis. As they were expert navigators, they were depicted as sea gods, half man, half fish, with the horns of a goat. Going back to Baphomet, going back to the, we always see Satan represented looking like a goat, horns of a goat, feet of a goat. That goes back to the Baphomet and the goat of Mendes, Kim, which, by the way, was the reason that Egypt was named Kemet. It didn't have shit to do with we all black, so we're going to name it the Black Land. Why the fuck did they give a fuck about how they look, and so we're going to name the whole land after that? As if, back then, as if some white folks was around to compare themselves to. And, you know, some people say, you know, it was based on the color of the land. No, it was based on the cult principle. Kim was named after the Kim, the goat of Mendes. Kim, the goat of Mendes, or Baphomet. It said, Lovecraft described their world as being made up of a multidimensional, non-Euclidean angles, as though they existed in a space-time between the planes of heaven and earth. Lovecraft describes them as grand and mighty creatures with a moral creed similar to that of Aleister Crowley's law, do what thou wilt, as they trounced on all those weaker than them, bringing destruction to the earth, devouring every living thing. That's nothing but esoteric terminology for by any means necessary, escaping physical existence. Go on and say here, this, okay, the subterranean lord. The archetype of the subterranean lord imprisoned in the underworld who will one day awaken from his death-like slumber to reclaim his kingdom is a common one. For instance, Kronos, the hidden one. So if he's the hidden one, he's also another word for melanin, also another word for Amen or Amenta, was the king of Atlantis and the leader of the Titans. Here he's obviously talking about not the physical island of Atlantis, but higher dimensional Atlantis. Because the hidden one was king of Atlantis and the leader of the Titans. His kingdom was cast down into the abyss, and Kronos was thereafter known as the Dark Lord of the underworld. So it sounds like he's talking about Satan. And Satan was cast down into the abyss, and his brethren. So there's an etymological connection between Titan, Tatan, and Satan. The Titans are Satans, and the Nephilim are synonymous with Lovecraft's Great Old Ones. Kronos, also known as Saturn or Satan, which, by the way, the original Hebrew Sabbath is not Sunday like fucked up Christians would have you believe. The original Sabbath is Saturday, which was named after Saturn or Satan. So showing that the original Hebrews, the whole shit was about alchemy, was about blackness, was about melanin. Didn't have shit to do with worshiping a light deity of creation. They shit had to do with getting up out of here, which shows in the Kabbalah. Kabbalistic texts attest to that. You say the Titans are Satans and the Nephilim are synonymous with Lovecraft's Great Old Ones. Kronos, also known as Saturn or Satan, is synonymous with Cthulhu. This same personage is synonymous with Dagon or Onus, referred to in the Bible as Leviathan, the beast who will rise from the sea at the apocalypse. It says, when the main character in the Call of Cthulhu interviews a member of the Cthulhu cult to divine their beliefs, the descriptions parallel the tales of the Nephilim, the Titans, and the war in heaven between God and Lucifer, as well as the fall of the Atlantean Empire, as we see in the following passage. They worshipped, so they say, the great old ones, who lived ages before there were any men, and who came to the young world out of the sky. And the word Anunnaki translates to those to earth from heaven, or fell out of the sky. These old ones were gone now, inside the earth and under the sea. That could be interpreted as the human body. All these deities are in us, ready to be released as junk DNA, as dormant organs, dormant glands, which we have to go against natural law to awaken, do unnatural things to awaken. Because natural law is to just be hypnotized, eat, fuck, and die. The old ones were gone now, and reproduce more cattle. The old ones were gone now, inside the earth and under the sea, but their dead bodies had told their secrets to the first man, who formed a cult which had never died. This was that cult, and the prisoners said it had always existed and always would exist, hidden in the distant wastes and dark places all over the world until the time when the great priest Cthulhu, from his dark house in the mighty city of Urlier, under the waters, which is inside the body, under the waters, mighty city of Urlier under the waters, should rise and bring the earth again under his sway. Someday he would call when the stars were ready, and the secret cult would always be ready to liberate him. And he goes on here. Let me go a little further so I can get into the sexual alchemy part. It says here, the rise of Urlier, the New World Order, the New Atlantis, the New Jerusalem, the Golden Age, and even the Apocalypse are all terms for the resurrection of the ancient global kingdom of the gods. This resurrection is described in Crowley's Book of the Law when he writes about the coming age of Horus and the return of the rule of the gods and their offspring, the human kings. And this is from the Book of the Law. Ye shall see them at rule, at victorious armies, at all the joy. Love one another with burning hearts, opening of the heart chakra. On the low men trample in the fierce lust of your pride. In the day of your wrath, trample down the heathen. Be upon them, O warrior. I will give you of their flesh to eat. Destruction of all that is human is what he's talking about. Going further, I want to get into these angles he's talking about. Okay, he says here, In the Necronomicon, the great old ones have been split into two factions, the elder gods and the ancient ones, the good guys and the bad guys. The editor explains, there are two sets of gods in the mythos. The elder gods, about whom not much is written, save that they are a stellar race that occasionally comes to the rescue of man, and which corresponds to the Christian light. And the ancient ones, about whom much is told, sometimes in great detail, who corresponds to darkness. These latter are the evil gods who wish nothing but ill for the race of man, and who constantly strive to break into our world through a gate or door that leads from the outside in. This is what Jack Parsons opened up, and this is what you can open up through the sexual alchemy when we get into that. There are certain people among us who are devotees of the ancient ones. I know I'm one of them, and who try to open the gate so that this evidently repulsive organization may once again rule the earth. Chief among them is Cthulhu, a sea monster dwelling in the great deep. And
so the Necronomicon is good then. That's right.
oh, definitely, definitely.
That's why they said stay away from it.
That's why,
Boys.
exactly.
They gonna tell you to stay away from it.
Everybody tell you stay away from all this shit on this table, except for the Bible, which I happily threw on the floor. When mine, you know, run out of toilet paper, is pretty much its only fucking use. It's only shit.
So the Croatia and the Necronomicon, that's us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, he says
At
here.
our disposal.
Hmm?
Is it at our disposal?
By left-hand path means, yeah. Say mankind also. Hmm?
I tell you what,
I know what it is there.
Okay, I'm going to these angles, which talks about the sacred geometry and all that. He said here, Frank Chalmers' character, this is from another book called The Hounds of Tindalos, another fictional story based upon our pre-existent existence. He said Frank Chalmers' character makes it clear that these underwater forms, oh wait, I need to go read about the underwater forms. He said that one of Lovecraft's proteges, Frank Belknap Long, wrote a story called The Hounds of Tindalos. In this story, a character named Frank Chalmers takes a drug that enables him to mentally regress through the genetic memory of his DNA. He reports, I am going back and back. Man has disappeared from there. Gigantic reptiles crouch beneath enormous palms and swim through the loathly black waters of dismal lakes. Now the reptiles have disappeared. No animals remain upon the land, but beneath the waters, plainly visible to me, dark forms move slowly over rotting vegetation. So it's talking about basically seeing us at that stage prior to actually falling into physical existence. The Frank Chalmers character makes it clear that these underwater forms are multidimensional beings. By taking this drug, he was performing a feat of time travel through the fourth dimension. The forms are becoming simpler and simpler. Now there are single cells. All about me there are angles, strange angles that have no counterparts on Earth. Beyond life there are things that I cannot distinguish. They move slowly through outrageous angles. And this, dealing with the angles, now we understand the importance of sacred geometry. Certain angles, through certain angles, certain deities can enter this and can enter into this existence, and basically, our higher selves can enter into us, and that is one of the primary purposes of mantra, sacred sounds. Mantras, if you understand the science of cymatics is they did studies showing that they took some Hindu and Buddhist priests and had them recite certain mantras, and they put sand on these little sheets. And as they recite these mantras, the sand would start moving into shapes like so-called Star of David, all types of different shapes based upon the sound that was resonating. So, given certain mantras, your molecular structure begins to form into certain shapes, certain angles, through which the outer beings can come in. So, I remember a while back, man, one of my queens, man, she used to, when I really first started putting her on this shit, she would always draw these symbols. She would say she would just see flashing in front of her. And I realized that these were the shapes, the new configurations of her molecular structure. And mine also. And basically, and even for those who aren't mutating yet. Those are the sacred geometrical shapes that the cell should be taking on to let these entities in. But by way of certain fucked up thought resonances, religious thought, you know, trying to fit into what's good according to society, those frequencies basically are against, they just keep the natural order going as far as our cellular structure. The same shit that scientists always see in the microscopes is the same shit you're going to keep until you start letting certain resonances in. And sometimes you got to find your own personal mantra. It can't be just Om or some shit that may be in some of the Hindu texts. Matter of fact, Jesus was said to say in Revelation something about, I will give man a new name that only that man knows. That's the figuring out, going deep inside and listening for your personal mantra, for real, for reconfiguring your cellular structure. And so that's why the Templars, the Knights Templars built certain cathedrals and shit, temples at Notre Dame and all that type of shit in Europe. They built them, and architects to this day can't figure out how they built them, because they was based on sacred geometry. And so it was this one temple, one cathedral over there in Europe that architects say they can't even figure out how the ceiling is staying up. But the way that the geometry is configured is keeping the ceiling up by anti-gravitational methods and shit. So I want to make sure I got into the angles part with the mantras, because the mantras are going to play a integral part when we get into the sexual alchemy. I know that's the part Rob been waiting on. All right. Sexual alchemy. First and foremost, sexual alchemy, the alchemical part is, alchemy is based upon the transmutation from the lower to the higher. So the first stage in alchemy is mutation. Mutation of the species, or mutation of the individual anyway, from the average species configuration of the cellular structure. But it definitely, sexual alchemy entails that men got to stop busting so many nuts. Got to stop busting so many motherfucking nuts. I ain't saying stop fucking, and I ain't saying stop having orgasms. Busting a nut and orgasm is two different motherfucking things. And once I really got into the science, I realized that, because I bust a nut and I be mad in the motherfucker, because it fucked up my orgasm. Orgasm is something totally different from busting a nut. Busting a nut fucks it all up. Matter of fact, I think Osho described orgasm as an implosion, ejaculation as an explosion that releases everything that could have been useful. And so the semen has been described as that which builds, in Chinese philosophy, was called the diamond body, that body which is going to survive after death, and the one that can withstand the frequencies of what the witches call the the eternal Sabbath, the primal state, the chaotic state. Matter of fact, we got some here about in this book was probably one of the best shits I've ever read.
Oh, my goodness.
Starfire.
Yes, sir.
Volume 2, number 2.
Yes, sir.
A Journal of the New Eon. And it's a bunch of contributors to this.
Who's that by, my brother?
It's a bunch of contributors.
This is from the Temple of New Isis Live.
Right.
Of the
The OTO, right.
Yeah.
And there's one chapter in here that blew me away, well, a lot of them blew me away.
Oh, my
It was called How to Leap Forth by Standing Still. And this was by Nigel Aldcroft, Aldcroft Jackson. And he goes into the ancient witch, the science of the witches. And I know a lot of motherfuckers out there, a lot of Afrocentric, Nation of Islam type fuckers and shit will get into, well, there ain't the black man shit, black man, all this type of shit. Look here, man. Ernest Scott in his People of the Secret, and Idris Shah in his book, The Sufis, shows conclusively that witchcraft, all the Masonic shit, all of that shit comes from black Sufis. The Sufis of ancient, which basically, and before motherfuckers get into that Islam shit, Sufi ain't got shit to do with Islam. Sufism comes from the draconian, Typhonian philosophy, and based upon political reasons, the Sufis put it in Islamic, under an Islamic banner, so that they wouldn't be persecuted, and they would look like everybody else when the Arabs conquered. And shit, matter of fact,
the Yorubas did when they got
Same thing the Yoruba did when they got enslaved. They put the voodoo deities, they took them and gave them Christian names.
Yeah.
So when the saints. So when the masters saw them fucking with them, they think they just participating in some Christian shit. Well, the Sufis did the same thing with Islam, as the Gnostics did with Christianity and shit. The Sufis were actually persecuted in Moorish Spain for being heretics, for practicing sorcery and all this type of shit. So it shows that, you know, people who be up in the Moors all the time, all the Moors weren't Sufis and all the Sufis weren't Moors. The Moors were executing Sufis. So in other words, the occult shit, the real shit, Moors were just some, you know, nickel and dime ass, pussyfooting around ass motherfucking Muslims who happen to have a little science and shit, little algebraic science and architecture, but they ain't had shit. I mean, of course, there was some sprinkled here and there who had the esoteric knowledge, but for the most part, the Sufis and Moors can definitely be, they're the line that we drawn if you really studied who they were and shit. So Ernest Scott and Idris Shah show how the Illuminati, who we saw, you know, in the Afrocentric movement, who we fear so much, was started by the Roshaniya of Afghanistan, which were a sect of Sufis, black Sufis, and the word means the illumined ones. When white folks went in and shit, they got their knowledge, and they started the Bavarian Illuminati. The New World Order was originally a plan of black folks. Yeah, they was against, you know, motherfuckers be like, Illuminati, they're against religion. Yes, we were against religion. We were against that bullshit. And so any motherfucker that's against religion, organized religion, I'm with that motherfucker. So, they show, so we're going to go into this shit. He's going into what they call the Volta leap in the witchcraft ceremonies in Europe, which, you know, we ain't got to go into the European white shit. Look, I've been certain all them motherfuckers already showed us with, you know, African presence in ancient Europe, ancient Asia, that the original blacks of Europe, I mean, the original inhabitants of Europe, Asia, all them places were black folks. The original Greeks were, what were they, no, not the Typhonians, the original Greeks, the Etruscans, you know, were black folks. The original Romans were black. All that shit. So when I go into this sex magic and showing some of the shit that the Romans and the Greeks practiced, I don't, you know, so we won't have to go through that shit. But I don't know. I know a motherfucker that told me asked me one day, because he was too fucking lazy to practice the shit, the seminal retention and recirculating the semen to higher centers. I gave him a book on Chinese philosophy on it, and he read and shit and came to me and said, well, I don't know if this is for the black man, brother. Come on, man, the original Chinese were black.
You say you got that in the Chinese book?
Yeah, the Chinese got probably the most profound philosophy I've read on it. They I guess, preserved it better than anybody, them and the Vedic text. Now here he shows here a picture of one of the ancient Chinese immortals. Get that. Showing how the I Ching, the oldest book in China, comes from the Ifa system of the Yoruba. And how Bodhidharma, who brought the martial arts and meditative practices to the Shaolin Temple, came from southern India, which was where the Dravidians were located. So it shows that he was a black man who brought this shit to China. Chinese pottery and shit. Clearly, you know, based upon black folks and shit. You get it?
Yep.
Look, this is like a motherfucker you might see on the corner. This motherfucker like a motherfucker's uncle or something. You're one of the Chinese immortals. So all their original art was black folks. So when we get into this shit showing that this is a Chinese philosophy, we just showing they just preserved it. You know, we knew that shit was getting fucked up, but we took it everywhere and took it to all the monasteries and temples we could find. So it was preserved in fragments. That's why we got to be code breakers, as I call them, and start putting all these fragments together and make a whole. And so back to the seminar. So motherfuckers are going to ask me, going to say, I don't know if this is for the black man. You know, this is from the book Choosing Life by Michael Frost. Excellent book. Excellent book. And so we're going to go into a little bit the purposes of conserving the semen. In Chinese philosophy, it is said, matter of fact, in Ayurvedic philosophy of India, it said it takes 40 drops of blood to make 1 drop of semen. So imagine, you know, all them nuts you bust is worth 40 drops of blood. Chinese philosophers state that in the Taoist system, which Michael Frost showed that the Taoist system is wholly a hermetic system that's put in, that's used with Chinese words to replace the ancient hermetic words and shit. And also the Zen Buddhism, based solely on the hermetic teaching. And so he says here that semen, let me find it real quick. No, I underlined the shit. Oh man, I can't find this shit. Okay. The sages considered 1 drop of semen equal in vital power to 100 drops of blood. The Hindu holy men refer repeatedly to Amrita, the elixir of life, a rejuvenation substance that may be produced during prolonged sexual activity without ejaculation. The production of this elixir, which Westerners might call a higher hormonal secretion, requires a sexual technique that prevents ejaculation and thereby allows the body to enter higher and higher states of energy. And so, and it's more than just not busting nut. It's a special technique that is definitely related to, has to do with Kundalini, called the Tumo in Tibet. The Tumo is, you've probably seen this on documentaries about these monks. Like part of their initiation would go into the mountains, high into the mountains, and they'd get naked all the way down to just like some drawers or something. And they'd wet these sheets. It's, you know, 40 below zero. They'd wet these sheets and wrap them around them all night until the sun comes up. And their initiation is to dry these sheets with their body by basically using their Kundalini energy to get their body so hot. And you can actually see these sheets steaming. I mean, you can see, I've seen a PBS show on it, 2020, Dateline. These motherfucking sheets were steaming. They got their heat so hot. And so the point is, the semen has to be steamed. You didn't just hold the semen. There's a story in ancient Chinese texts about a man who didn't understand the techniques. He understood the mechanical side of it, just withholding, but not raising it to the highest centers. And so he eventually, one day, vomited a silver fluid and died because he was just congested with the shit. He didn't understand that the steaming aspect of it. Or what was his name? Paracelsus, the medieval alchemist, called the aura seminalis, the aura of the semen. It had to be steamed. The distillation of it had to be steamed and had to rejuvenate the highest centers of the body. And so the economy of the semen, economizing the semen is very, very important because the sorcerer's part can't come until you build that energy up. You know, you're talking about doing sexual magic, sorcery, that type of shit, hedonistic sorcery. There has to be, you have to have an energy to put out there. So if you just busting nuts every day, 4 or 5 times a day and shit, and like I said, believe me, when you get into it, the pleasure of not busting that motherfucker and then having that whole body orgasm as opposed to a genital explosion, what they call in some texts, in Buddhism they call it killing the Buddha. And Buddha is equivalent to the Christ. So busting nut is considered equivalent to killing the Christ in yourself. And you keep busting all of it, and there's also the fuel of Kundalini. Kundalini feeds off, matter of fact, that's why one of the reasons is depicted as a serpent, sexual energy. Sexual energy rising up. Kundalini feeds off the aura seminalis.
And how do we keep from busting a nut? How is that pleasure if you ain't busting a nut?
I say it's pleasure because there's a clear distinction between orgasm and busting a nut. Huh? 20 minutes. Oh shit. Yeah, we're gonna definitely have to do part 2. Yeah. Shit. Well, anyway, let me see if I can find a little bit on that. The question you just asked me. But yeah, in fact, I really want to get into some other shit. I can show you some books real quick to help y'all with it.
It's the iron cross.
I'm gonna get in. If he don't, what he don't cover, I try my best to cover a little bit of.
Right.
And then we're gonna do a part 2 to this also.
This is one of the best books on retaining and recirculating the semen. It's called Taoist Secrets of Love.
Excellent book.
Culminating Male Sexual Energy by Montauk Chia and Michael Wynn. Excellent book. And he also wrote one called The Multi-Orgasmic Man. How a man retaining semen, you have many orgasms instead of just that one and fall into a goddamn damn near coma. Another one, Choosing Life, written by a black man.
That's
Michael Frost. Tai Chi master, a martial arts master. Michael Frost. He got excellent techniques for retaining the semen. Because first it's a mechanical process where you're doing with certain muscle locks, then it becomes, after so long you can do it mentally.
So the only time we should be releasing the semen is when we want to bring in a seed.
Basically, or at the sacrifice.
It's only good for spitting fire and making rain.
Right, right.
We're gonna get into that.
And also it's good.
Fire you make the baby.
It's also good for the sacrifice if you're calling a specific deity. Because it's more, like I said, it's more potent than one drop of blood. So instead of a blood sacrifice to a deity, you can bust off as offering to a deity. They really have some energy to feed off of. And he also has in here another thing, since I only got 20 minutes left, with the retaining of the semen, there's an equivalent. There's a correspondence with women. Women got to stop coming on them goddamn periods. And that's what women don't understand. Women think that that's a natural process, but I've seen for myself that with dietary change and with certain exercises, the periods will stop. And that blood, it said, contains 6 times the concentration of sexual hormones than when the woman actually is just without, I mean, that blood contains 6 times the sexual hormones than regular blood. So all them sexual hormones being wasted, all that shit, all the magical properties that she's supposed to use to lift up to her higher, to the higher centers of her, in her higher chakras and things, are being wasted. That's her Kundalini fuel. And matter of fact, Michael Frost has excellent exercises for the woman.
And is that coming from her not eating meat, changing her...
Yeah, definitely. Get a book, Physiological Enigma of Woman by Raymond Bernard. It's all about the dietary changes and all about how fucked up the periods are. I mean, he drops in that motherfucker.
I'll have you repeat that when you go off tape.
Okay.
That book you just said.
I wish I could find it real quick. But yeah, he has techniques in here from the Chinese Hermetic Taoist philosophy, techniques showing how certain massages that women do that stop the period. And matter of fact, I could find in here this book, Taoist Bedroom Secrets, by Master Chien Zetnerson, Zettnersan. Master Chien Zetnerson. Chien is Chian. And he says in here about the menstrual cycle. He says here, wait a minute, by practicing the deer exercises, which they're called, the exercises, in the Chinese exercises are called the deer exercises. By practicing the deer exercises, the woman triggers a rejuvenation mechanism that permits her to stop aging. In this sense, the simple movement sequence of the female deer exercise fulfills the ancient search for the fountain of youth, the inexhaustible source of youthfulness. The Taoist healing procedure of stopping the red snow, menstruation, is also called sending back the blood. As a result, the entire female organism is strengthened and tightened, particularly the system of the sexual organs. It says here, through the female deer exercise, all types of congestion and constipation can also be eliminated. And by constipation, he don't just mean shit. Constipation is when you have bumps on your face, all that type of shit. It's waste that can't be released. It says the blood and energy channels are freed of deposits so that the natural cleansing process is initiated in the body, clearing away the existing blockages. The biological aging process stops when you begin the deer exercise. This means that the sooner you stop your menstruation, the younger you will look and remain. This recommendation also applies to the man who achieves this goal through the technique of male deer exercise and prevention of ejaculation by inhaling into the abdomen. But it's more than just the breath exercises. But he has here, he shows some exercises for the women on stopping the menstruation, and they're excellent. I've seen them work firsthand. And, I mean, how long I got, man? Shit.
Let me say your book. I want to just get his name. It's where you keep rolling.
This is also another one by Montachia, the same one who wrote this one, called Healing Love Through the Tao, Cultivating Female Sexual Energy. And he's showing exercises for tightening pussy. Women, you got to tighten them pussies. Because, you know, it's certain exercise for that shit, you know, and you can get to a point where you can hold a man's dick, feel like the motherfucker got him with it by a hand. That motherfucker gets so tight. And it's also good, and one of the major purposes of that is to be able to pump that energy upward, to strengthen the energy, and not allow it to leak out. So back to the seminal retention. You know, we get a lot of people who believe that, you know, the primary purpose of sex is procreation. It is. It is on an animal level when you just want to reproduce. But is higher purpose. Like I said, creation and evolution are two different paths. Creation is a downward path. That's why the semen flows downward and outward. Evolution is an upward path. You bring your shit up. You bring your shit up. That's the Christ rising up the River Jordan, the spinal fluid. It's crucified at the base of the spine. I mean, at the base of the head, at the medulla oblongata. You've seen the caduceus, how they crisscross each other? When they cross at the top of the head, they cross, they form a cross. That's the crucifixion of the Christ. And that's why Jesus in the Bible was crucified on the hill called Golgotha. Place of Golgotha translates to place of the skull. They said the Templars were persecuted for worshiping a skull. And so they're showing how the correlation that Christ is that seed, the Bindu seed, that is created with constant retention of the semen. Losing it, you lose what's called the ojas in the Typhonian philosophy, in the Tantric philosophy, and in this dictionary here of Beyond the Mob Zone by Kenneth Grant. He had, matter of fact, ojas. He says here, the fire snake, or kundalini, at all times exudes a subtle effluvium known as ojas. Ojas is an overflow of semen, or its feminine counterpart, and it is potent to rejuvenate the bodily system of chakras. So all them busting nuts and shit means chakras can't be awakened. Ojas flows from the feet of the goddess, which are located at the region of the coccygeal gland, known also as Luscus gland. That's near the prostate. Ojas is sometimes the elixir of life. It passes out of the body as a waste product with the urine, with the menstrual blood, and with the bindu itself. It is the ultimate and 16th fluid that flows from woman, 14 only of which are generally known. And so all that busting off and partaking of the beastly nature basically degenerates you. And you see that shit from busting, you busting out, the first thing you want to do. You feel like you're damn near dead and shit. Bitch, get off me. Stop talking. Shut up. I gotta go to sleep. And that's another reason that men lose that fire for their woman. Busting too many nuts. You see that just in that one time. As soon as you bust off, you like, I'm done, you know, shit. Woman's still like, shit, I'm ready to fuck, and you done. That's because, and after so long, I think Bobby Hemmett touched on that on his tape, The Mysteries of Love. Talking about one of the ways to keep that fire is to learn tantric science of recirculating the semen. But we definitely got to get these women, the women, you know, women will argue up and down. Menstruation is natural. We're supposed to do it. All this shit when there's nothing but a hemorrhage. You bleed from anywhere else, you try to stop the shit. As soon as you bleed from your pussy, you think it's natural. But even the preliminary signs of menstruation is fucked up. It's pathological. Cramps, headaches, irritability, all that shit. That shit ain't natural. That shit ain't natural at all. So we talking about taking a pathological state and presenting it as natural. So that's number one. And I guess my man Rollo has to really drop on some shit I didn't get to touch on. But that's number one with sexual alchemy, that retaining the seed, I guess, the bindu, the ovarian energy and the seminal energy, lifting it up and using it as you're storing that energy for later on, which is hedonistic sorcery, like what I like to call it. Also, I guess one of the preliminaries is, before you get into sexual alchemy and delude yourself, master at least some familiarity, get some familiarity with solo meditation. Because all the shit people talk, ain't nobody who can't sit for 5 minutes without being disturbed and shit in solo meditation. Once you get your dick in some hot pussy and talking about keeping your concentration, you know what I'm saying? Please, if you can't sit here by yourself and keep your concentration, and practice breathing exercise. You know damn well when you get with some fine-ass, soft motherfucker, your mind, you unconscious at that moment. All you know is you in some pussy, and once that nut bust, you forget every motherfucking thing. That's total unconsciousness then. Matter of fact, John Bain said the only sin in sex is when you reach total unconsciousness during the ejaculation. That's the sin. You get unconscious instead of, even if you're going to bust shit, use it as a ritual, in ritualistic context, at least. But you definitely got to, master some. Matter of fact, my man here, Nicholas Schreck, in his book, Demons of the Flesh, The Complete Guide to the Left-Hand Path of Sex Magic. Excellent.
I gotta see that.
Excellent.
Damn,
He says here, along with the meditative and yogic mastery of alternative states of consciousness, which the student must learn as a prelude to the secret rite, which is sexual alchemy, he is expected to have mastered his passions. By the time he is confronted with the woman who will incarnate the Shakti in the sexual initiation, he is trained to view her in an entirely different manner that the average uninitiated Pashu, which is beast man, would consider a sexually accessible female. So in other words, master your passions. You know, you sitting here meditating by yourself and 30,000 different thoughts breaking your concentration and shit. So, you know, like I said, when you get some fine-ass motherfucker with you, or if you're a woman, you get some motherfuckers, you know, slam you with some dick that's smashing it, you know what I'm saying? Ain't no way you're going to keep your concentration with some breathing exercises while you fucking, and you can't do it within solo meditative context. So, yeah, he talks about in here about you have to master solo meditation. They had to at least go a year without sex of mastering solo meditation before they can even get into the left-hand path, sexual shit. So that's a definite. And also, I want to build on before I got to go, I guess, one of the aspects how we can tell that enlightenment is not natural to humanity, but is counter the natural process, is the musical scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, or fa, sol, la, si in some systems, do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si correlates to the chakras. Valentine showed that the second do is the foundation of the root chakra on the next scale. That's in do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. If you're playing piano, you keep going up the scale. But what you don't know is, well, most people, a lot of music theorists do know that is, there's a deviation. And by that, I guess I can use this board right here. And those 7 notes on the scale. You got, let me write it down here. Matter of fact, where's my other book? So I can show this real quick. Do, re, mi. This also shows why there are no straight lines in nature. Do, re, mi is a straight line. When you get to fa, it deviates like that. You get to fa, it deviates. And the only thing that can keep that straight line is a shock or a more potent form of energy than that original frequency. And I'm gonna explain this in a minute. Do, re, mi, fa, and then you got so, la, and I think there's another deviation somewhere around here. And so this shows that consciousness, which is based upon the same theory of octaves, cannot be a straight line. Consciousness always deviates. That's why you find a motherfucker, I'm vegetarian, I'm way into it. Then you see this motherfucker deviate, and he think he on the same line. He still calling it the same shit. Next thing you know, well, man, I can eat a little fish, man. I read a little something where it say, you know, it's cool. This motherfucker go all the way in circles. By the time he get down here, this motherfucker back in church eating pig and shit. He come back around, and he's going in circles. Consciousness is based on this. The universe is based on the theory of octaves, the theory of 7. You need a more potent form of energy to even keep this straight line going. The only way you can be illuminated is if you can stay on the same consciousness path. If you're going to deviate, there's no way you can become illuminated because you're going to keep going in circles, never getting anywhere. So the musical scale itself, which is profound, which is a universal principle. Before this was based on the universe, it was based on ancient cosmology, shit like that. But they took it later on and just applied it to music. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si. And Gurdjieff talks about this a lot, and he shows, matter of fact, I think I just saw it. But yeah, if consciousness and everything else is based on the musical scale, that shows why there are no straight lines in nature. There are no straight lines in nature. You can't go find nothing in the natural world that has a straight line. From tree bark to rocks to frogs to snakes, nothing. There's no such thing as a straight line because of the law of octaves. But during this interval, we got to be conscious enough to impart, to throw into her a higher form of energy, a more potent energy, to keep that consciousness going in a straight line. Or else you always just keep going in circles. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. Go and keep doing the same shit, calling it the same shit. Like, you know, these motherfuckers out here, I hate white folks, I hate devils, I hate devils. Motherfucker got a white bitch on his elbow next week. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers, you know, you know where I'm going with this, right? I ain't even go there. Motherfucker might get offended. Shit. But, so that was just a digression on the unnatural path of illumination. It cannot happen, the masses can't do it. It cannot happen by the masses. It's an individual effort, certain small cells, certain small groups. Okay. How long I got, man? 2 minutes?
2.
Oh, shit. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up, man. I ain't got too much, I can cover in 2 motherfucking minutes, man. We're gonna have to definitely do a part 2. I ain't get into Cenobite, sorcery. Cenobites based on, yeah, I'm sure everybody's seen the movie Hellraiser.
If it's all right with my man here.
Yeah, if it's all right with my man. Yeah, we can get into the...
And then we'll do a part 2 to this next week. And Brother RAGANORok gonna drop on the rest of the things that we both gonna drop. We both gonna drop on some stuff. Because we both, to show you how things was, last week we supposed to came here and did it, and some shit got fucked up. This Sunday we come here and try to do it, and all type of shit start happening. We start forgetting material, losing shit,
right,
and all type of shit. You know what I'm saying?
That motherfucker cool.
Well, he said it was an introduction. You know, that was some bullshit, because that wasn't no damn introduction. My man dropped, did he drop?
He dropped.
Dropped like a motherfucker. So, I'm Brother RUDRA. And first of all, I'm going to open it up, give a shout out and homage to the demons of the void, which is us. Okay? The demons of the void, which is us. And with that being said, also, I'm going to dedicate this lecture to my man who took himself out a couple months ago, Antoine Maurice Johnson. And it was interesting, before he left, he came up with this name. You know, and after all these years in consciousness, he never changed his name, just kept his plain Antoine Johnson. And before he died, he came up with a name he wanted to call himself. He wanted everybody to refer to him as Trimet. You know what I'm saying? And which I believe is a new entity, because right now what's going on is a lot of the old names of the old entities, those names are being used up. You know what I'm saying? So now we got to come with something new, because, you know, shit is so redundant with what's going on. So I'm going to dedicate that to him, Trimet, which I've also had contact with since he's been gone. You know what I'm saying? And he has also allowed me and helped me to be a medium in a realm of the dark gods. So I'll get it up to Trimet. So with that being said, Brother RAGANORok dropped a lot on a lot of things, and I'm like, man, shit, what the fuck can I say now? You know what I'm saying? But since he dropped the foundation of what's going of this hedonistic sorcery and tantra and things of that nature, then I'm going to drop on some of the things that you can do to develop energy and to make your magic more effective. And like my man, he was asking a question about, well, how do you hold the seed? How do you hold the seed? And I'll give you something. If you were a woman or something, the best way to get down with holding the seed, just some plain basic shit is while you in it, And you can go actually go get a foreign object, but the ring thing you put around your penis, and this will stop you, and this will also help you to start doing it on your own. But what she can do while you in it, at the base of your penis or your phallus, she can just hold that motherfucker and squeeze it.
Is that the back of your penis?
At the base of the penis.
That's the back?
Yeah, the back of it.
Okay.
Right at the base of it.
Okay.
Holding it and squeezing it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Just holding it and squeezing it while you are involved in a sexual activity. And she can do that for 5 minutes, a few minutes. And after a while you keep doing this, what will happen is that the shit will start flowing backwards. Because they want to get out so bad.
All right.
And when you hard, you know what I'm saying? Ain't no pain to the shit.
No.
So she can squeeze that motherfucker as hard as she wants to squeeze it. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the basic things. And another thing I want to get into, he talked about holding the seed, but it's also, holding is one part of it, but making your sacrifice is another. Because in one of these books up here, I think it was the Carnal Alchemy, I believe, it was talking about how sexual fluids is foods for the gods. And I'm going to get into that, the incubus and the succubus too. Because every deity and shit ain't on your side. You see what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get into that. So basically, I want to get into a few things. He dropped on the demiurge. And you know what fucked me up the most? As I was having this conversation the other day, and a brother said, he was talking about God and all this other shit, and asking me, do I believe in God? And I use the term my man always used, and he said, do you believe in God? I said, yeah, I believe in God. I said, I just don't like the motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So in terms, so it just takes a little common sense when it gets down to it. It's like, the Christians will tell you, the Muslims will tell you, they all sit up there and tell you the same shit, that God is the omnipotent, the all-knowing, the most merciful, and all this other shit. And it's just a bunch of bullshit for real. Because when you think about it, okay, say God is all-knowing. They know what you need and all this other shit. So why the fuck you gotta get on your motherfucking knees and pray then?
Getting big.
You know what I'm saying? Why you gotta get on your knees and pray to some God when this motherfucker's supposed to know everything you need? It's just like you. If you know I need something and I ain't saying nothing about it because I might have a pride thing going on, when you give it to me, was trying to come to you and beg your ass to give me something. So this whole thing, this whole sorcery and this magic thing and this sexual thing is the greatest force. Because this thing was put into place by the ancients for the purpose of escaping this so-called phenomenon, this creation shit, which everybody's so crazy about. And then it went up until to the 335 when Constantine and his troops came, and they had the cults of Bacchus and Dionysus and shit, and Rome and all this shit. And then they started destroying it. And then they put a law out later on that said that you couldn't practice sexual tantra, you couldn't practice sexual alchemy, you couldn't get into all these magic and shit. If you did, you was burned at the stake and all this other shit. You know what I'm saying? So that goes to show you what kind of power that this thing has. You know what I'm saying? So in essence to that, we can get into some of the things. I'm going to be very, very brief on it. We can get into some of these rituals and things. And some of the things you can do, first of all, you want to enhance your aura. You want to enhance your energy. And one of the things you can do is you can do certain yoga exercises and breathing exercises, particularly pranic breathing, where you breathe at the lower abdomen. And I'm pretty sure most of us are familiar with that. So the pranic breathing, and there's certain positions. And I'll show you one of them. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to show it to you. And one of the positions that you can do, and this is from a book called Tarot Magic. By the way, it's an excellent book. This book here is by Donald Michael Craig. He's also the cat who wrote, what's that, Western Sex Magic? Modern Sex Magic, I'm sorry. Modern Sex Magic, and he gets into these different positions and shit. I'm trying to see if I can find them, motherfucker. I can't find it, whatever. But basically, what you do is, I guess I try to draw it. I'm not an artist. Basically, you lay from your buttocks to your legs. You lay that flat on the surface, and then you bend inward with your head between your legs. And when you do this, you can do this for an amount of 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and what it does is it induces trance. It also raises your vibration at a certain level. So I've been going through all these books, and they say, well, you can do this, that, and third. What I do, I start formulating my own shit. And that's what I tell everybody to do. You know, I can tell you some things to do, but put your own spin on everything where it's uniquely yours. So when you're doing this thing, it induces trance. Once you do this for 5 to 10 minutes, start to induce trance. And then after you get done, then you get up and you get into the sexual activity. You know what I'm saying? And what I've done it that way, and it raised the energy up the Kundalini energy very fast. And once you come out, you know what I'm saying, whatever your purpose was for doing this particular sex magic ritual, whatever your purpose was for doing it, then shoot for your purpose of that. You can go into meditation, or you can draw sigils or whatever, or signals, or whatever you want trying to do. And then this helps your purpose, because by that time your energy is raised up first from the position that you try, and not only the position, after the position, getting into the sexual activity. And that's the highest energy. And being able to retain your seed. You know what I'm saying? And another thing, being that I'm dealing with the tarot magic, because I'm going to build on this just for a minute here. Also with the tarot magic, what I found is you can also use the tarot cards for whatever purpose that you are shooting for. So those of us that are familiar with the tarot cards and the meanings of them and what this means, what that meaning is, what you do, you put the tarot card in a room where the sexual activity is going to go down. And basically, you do the whole process of the activity, you don't look at the tarot card. You plainly just get into the activity of the pleasure of the sex, or the animalistic thing, what we call the animalistic thing. Because when you get in there, sometimes when it's time for what you call the sacrifice, you got to get very animalistic. You know what I'm saying? And that is your primal stage. That is before we fail into this physical bullshit. So once you get into that and you get the energy up, you don't try to bust off so fast, but you still work your energy. And once you do that, and at the moment when you get ready to sacrifice the seed, you know what I'm saying, or ejaculate, then that's when you come out of it, or you stay in, and then you focus on the tarot card. You make sure that it is somewhere that it can be focused. You know what I'm saying? For that matter. So the tarot card thing is very, very positive. I've tried a lot of this shit, so I'm not telling you none that I've not tried. Because every day me and him talk, you know, man, I tried this last night. This shit worked. Another thing I'm going to get into, everybody, you know, when you're dealing with this so-called dark side shit, you know, unless your mind ready for it, you know what I'm saying, you got to get ready for this type of shit, because when you're dealing with these entities and you've been Christianized and Islamized and all this other shit, then what's going to end up happening is you're going to fuck yourself up, and you're going to scare yourself into some shit that you might not be fucking ready for. You know what I'm saying? Me and my brethren here, we had a bunch of cats and brothers and sisters coming to the crib and shit, and one nigga went crazy. He became a psychic all of a sudden and was in the motherfucking rituals, doing cartwheels and all type of crazy ass shit, telling this one lady that his wife was an ancient, what the fuck, was she some type of martial arts ninja and shit, all type of shit. The motherfucker went crazy because he jumped into it so fast, he just got into the movement in the first place. And dealing with metaphysics anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because he was just dealing with the basic Dr. Ben shit and shit like that. He wasn't even dealing with metaphysics, but, you know, we jumped the gun trying to, you know, everybody, you know, the so-called conscious, we was trying to let them in our circle, we was trying to build build him up, and this nigga went crazy, and all of a sudden he became this super psychic, and he walking around town and telling everybody I do dream interpretations and all type of shit. And last time somebody saw me, he was out sitting out in front of some damn store with a white woman, holding her hand, bowing his head down and shit. Like he getting some type of transmission for this cracker and shit.
And remember, he would be faking trances.
Oh yeah, he also faked trances and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But the shit drove him damn near out of his mind. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just letting you know, because what I ended up doing, I've been practicing this mirror magic shit. And with the mirror magic, I've tried it so many ways. I put a mirror in front of me and one behind me. I just been trying shit. I went into this brother's book, Pascal Beverly Randolph's book, and he got some stuff on mirror magic and drawing a diamond stuff and inverting and all type of shit. And also had some stuff in the Starfire thing where I talked about the mirror magic and certain things you can do. You can draw these sigils. And one occultist, Osmond Sparrow, if you've seen any of his art, I'm pretty sure this is probably his art on the Starfire shit. This right here. That's probably some of his art right there. If you see any of his art, you like, damn, he coming up with some weird...
Hey, you want to hold your art up again, man?
Damn, he coming up with some weird shit. And I had a book and I didn't bring it today.
Who's it by?
Osmond Sparrow. Austin Osmond Sparrow. And Kenneth Grant did a lot of stuff on him. And matter of fact, he did the book on his art and stuff. And he came up with all these demons and all this shit. And how he came up with it, for what I found out, how he came up with it was through the magic mirror. So I say, shit, if this cracker can do it, then I know I'm gonna get on some shit. So what I did, I started doing the magic mirror. The first time I read it, I said, I'm gonna try that shit tonight. I tried this shit, and the gal was in the bedroom, and I'm sitting out there, and I'm in the mirror, and I'm staring. What you do, but basically, you start drawing some type of sigils or whatever, or for whatever purpose you're trying to induce, trance. You staring into this mirror, like my man said, you can't sit down and do meditation for 5 minutes. How the hell are you gonna go into the Great Gateway and survive? You know what I'm saying? But I tried the shit, and immediately I started to do some trance and seeing all these different demons and shit. And which I'm gonna get into what that shit is for real, because that's actually dealing with Dionysus, and which I'm gonna get into a little later on. So when I did it, it induced trance on me so fast. I guess about 10, 15 minutes it induced trance on me, and I went in and I got into the ritual and stuff with this woman. So the next time I tried it, she said she wanted to get into it and she wanted to try it with me. I said, okay, come on. So we tried this shit. So I said, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get butt naked and we're gonna stand in front of the mirrors. I'm gonna draw a sigil on your side and I'm gonna draw a sigil on my side. You stir the sigil on my side and I stir the sigil on your side. We're gonna just beat her and try to go into trance. So we did the shit, and the minute she started getting these transmissions and she started going crazy and shit. So she's like, oh no, I can't do this. I can't do it, because she couldn't deal with it because she was raised in a Christian background. So she was so into this thing, she thought she was ready to get down with this magic mirror. So I'm just saying, for those of you that's not really haven't been into this thing or haven't been into this metaphysics and this magic, get up on it or something, man. As you can see, we had some technical difficulties. The microphone and shit miraculously got unplugged somehow. We already know what's up with them motherfuckers, so I send somebody after them. So on a level, what I was saying is, when she started doing this shit, you know, she went crazy. She went berserk and shit. Like, I can't tell, I'm seeing too much shit. You know what I'm saying? And she was telling me all these different entities and all these crazy looking creatures that she was seeing and shit. So I was like, okay. You know what I'm saying? I know. So also, so a lot of images, once you get into this thing, into this magic and all this mysticism and all this, what's gonna happen is you're gonna start seeing shit. You know what I'm saying? When I went down to Atlanta, Georgia and shit, for the Bobby Hemmett lecture, when he came, we getting back to the crib, and the minute I walked through the door, it was an entity standing right in front of me. You know what I'm saying? I say, damn, who the fuck is that? You know what I'm saying? So they was like, oh no. Yeah, there's some spirits up in here. So we went down, sit down, we chill for a minute and shit. We listened to music and shit, and all of a sudden, the brother who I was talking about on the beginning of the tape, beginning of this recording, Antoine Johnson, Trotmet, he came through and started talking to my aunt who was there with us. You know, he wanted us to pour him a drink. He wanted to chill and kick and listen to the old school music with us. So what I'm saying is, once you start doing this, you're going to start seeing shit on a regular basis. Because what's happening is your real mind, which is your subconscious mind, because this other mind here is basically the great matrix mind. Your subconscious mind, or what you call the great mentor, this particular mind is the real mind, so you start to see things in the other realm. That's what the other realm is. And which I'm going to go into what this subconscious mind is. And this subconscious mind basically is what we call the underworld. The underworld. And it talks about Hades, which is Hades is another term for it.
What's that book?
And this book right here is The Dream and the Underworld by James Hillman. The Dream and the Underworld. And in this book here, he goes into talking about Hades. Man, I hope I didn't lose the page. God damn. But basically what he says is Hades is Dionysus. And Dionysus is another form of Osiris. And with Hades, with Dionysus, all these images from the underworld comes up. And this is how the hieroglyphics and all this shit was written. You know what I'm saying? This is how the hieroglyphics and stuff was written. So Hades is Dionysus and Osiris. And Osiris is the lord of the underworld. And these images and shit start to come up. You know what I'm saying? So also, to show you that when he was talking about the pre-dynastic shit, Osiris in the dynastic shit, is Set of the pre-dynastic shit. And I'm going to show you that because also your underworld mind is also on the tree of life what they call Da. Sometimes they don't even call it a spirit. But this is what you call the gateway to the other realm. And in Da, the other realm, they call this the tunnels of Set. So Osiris and Set is one and the same. You know what I'm saying? The slave god, because in some mythology they show Osiris as with Set putting him in the coffin and locking him up. And in other mythologies is the reverse. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta get into what you call the pre-dynastic shit. And this where the thing with the Hebrews and shit come in, because they are Set worshippers. The Hebrews are Set worshippers. That's why their day for the Sabbath is on a Saturday, because Saturday is another name for Set, or Saturn. You know what I'm saying? Saturn's day is Set's day. Their whole thing. So the whole thing, even with the Hyksos and shit. And this is a great mystery on this shit, because I even saw the shit in the movie Alien vs. Predator. You know what I'm saying? Even with the Hyksos shit, when they tell you in the Afrocentric movement, I always talk about the Hyksos coming down and Ramesses and all these other motherfuckers running these motherfuckers out. That shit right there, the Hyksos were the original Typhonians. You know what I'm saying? And then after later on, when they came back, some of them was mixed race, but they was coming back for the tradition of the pre-dynastic period of Set. So the story about Moses and these motherfuckers and Pharaoh running Moses and shit, you know, to Israel, and Pharaoh, Moses going at it, and Moses go to Israel with all these motherfuckers supposed to be free and shit. That shit ain't got nothing to do with none of that. What that really is talking about the original Set worshippers, what they call the Hyksos. So, you know, a lot of people in the Afrocentric movement get mad at me, and I heard Asra Crazy talk about Ramesses and all these motherfuckers, but all them niggas was light side.
Ramses the Third, and all them motherfuckers was light side. So they don't get no respect up in this motherfucker. Akhenaten and all them motherfuckers with that monotheistic shit, and all the solar god worshippers and all that shit light side. And to show you that it's light side, I was reading it. I just happened to, after I saw the movie Alien the Predator, which I'm gonna get into, I went to the crib and I just picked up this book here, and I had this for a while. I had never read the book. I just picked it up, and I was going through it, and it was talking about Ramses the Third, and it was talking about here. It was talking about, it said in Egypt, Ramses the Third recorded the destruction of Atlantis in 1198 BCE on the walls of the Victory Temple he erected to celebrate his defeat of the Sea People. And it says, but he was also one of the last great pharaohs, and with his assassination, Egypt went into decline from which it would never recover. It also goes into the Atlantis people having the serpent mound symbolizing the cataclysm was simultaneously raised in the Ohio Valley and near the shores of Loch Ness. Poverty Point rose in the northeast corner of Louisiana, the oldest city in North America. So even the thing with Ramesses the Third shows that he was against what they call the serpent people, what they call the Kundalini people. And in this movie, Alien versus Predator, it talks about the story about how the human beings got trapped. It was interesting because the movie started off with they sighting this pyramid at the North Pole, where they sighted this pyramid underground, and all of a sudden with this radar thing, they picked up the pyramid because it was building up heat and shit. And every now and then it go down and build up. But that's because that was the Kundalini people inside the pyramids. So what happens is, in the movie, they had this black woman who was the leader, and they asked her to lead them into this pyramid. And once they get in the pyramid, all these crackers standing around, they got one Uncle Tom Negro, and they got this woman. Well, she ended up being on the wrong side in the first place. But they got this one, but it's kind of like the Isis and Osiris mystery. You know what I'm saying? But what ended up happening, they go into these pyramids, and one dude from the French dude, he read Meta and shit. He read the hieroglyphs, and they said the pyramids was a combination of Aztec, Egyptian, and Cambodian. And they had the hieroglyphs and the writings of all three of them in there, showing you the pieces put together. So once they get in there, they was getting ready to go into the tunnel and go into the great walls in the pyramids. And they said, and the dude read off the wall, he said, only the chosen ones will survive, or something like that. And then he said, no, I don't say that. It said only the chosen one will survive. So when it went into it, the woman, she automatically, you know, all these crackers started getting slayed because it started to become a battle between these serpent aliens and these dreadlock predators, because they was battling in the temple. One said, this is my temple, this is my temple. So they battling for the temple. But the serpent people is the same thing with the shit in Egypt, with the Hyksos coming back to reclaim the ancient pyramids. Because if you read the documents in ancient Egypt where they talk about the pyramids, they talk about the pyramids are this old, and these pharaohs and they priests built it. No, that's bullshit. Because even Charles Finch even broke that code, because them pyramids was over 25,000 years old. So was the Sphinx, the great beast. You know what I'm saying? So when they get into this thing, they start battling over who shit is who. So the aliens there, and they had a shrine and temple set up where all these people was making their sacrifices to these alien serpents. And so they laying around and shit, and next thing you know, these eggs and shit was starting to pop up at the foot of these people and shit. So they goes into this thing, and it was a time channel thing. When they get there, all this war start to happen with these, when the people get inside these little things. So all the shit they had 10-minute intervals where the underground will open up in the pyramid, and people start falling through and getting trapped for 10 minutes, and open up, so you got to get your ass out of there. And the next 10 minutes, or you trapped and you getting killed and squashed and all type of shit. So what ended up happening is, to make a long story short, is that the alien, which is the serpent, start killing all the crackers in there and killed the Uncle Tom Negro who pulled a gun on the sister. You know what I'm saying? Because she was like, it's time to get the fuck out of here. And he was like, nah, we going to take over this motherfucker. He pulled a gun on her. She's like, hell nah. So what ended up happening is the aliens and shit started trying to take over and killing all the crackers in the motherfucker. And they tried to, they was going to kill the sister, but here come this predator, and she started befriending this predator and shit. So the predator befriends her, and they start to fight this war with the alien and shit. And at the end, the predator thinks that he slayed the alien, but at the end he's laying down like Osiris. And then what happens is the damn serpent at the end of the movie pops out his navel just like the dick or the phallus of Osiris in the temples and shit, showing you that, hey, no matter what, you can't take over this prime evil shit. No matter what you do, you can't take over this prime evil shit. You know what I'm saying? So it was just going to show you the same shit that's been going on. It's been this war, and how we got here to this in this predicament, and all this suffering and all this shit, having to eat, having to work, having to do all this other shit. You know, it's not a great thing like my man was talking about, and how we got here is a result of war. And the thing you got to realize is that when you call upon these spirits and all these entities, you got to recognize one thing, that these motherfuckers are one with you. And you can't put them on a higher level than you are. You know what I'm saying? Because you here as a sacrifice for them in the first place. Those of you that are conscious, those of you that are on a frequency, the elite, that is the reason why you're here. So I don't want to hear no shit from no God telling me I can't do what I need to do, or nothing, that they don't come through for me when the fuck I need to. If this is another part of me, and you supposed to be in the spirit realm, and I'm in this physical body, then I need all the help I can get. You see what I'm saying? So you can't put them on a higher level than you, but you got, you know what I'm saying, it got to be a mutual thing. Just like you my homeboy, they got to be your homeboy too. You know what I'm saying? Or your homegirl, or whatever. So dealing with that, what I'm saying is, with this thing, with the magic mirrors and stuff, I'm telling you the good book to get. And one thing about when you get into esoteric and the occult, black people will always challenge you, and they're gonna always tell you. Like one cat came in my crib one day, and he seen my Baphomet flag hanging up like the shirt I got on. He seen the flag and shit hanging up. What you doing with all this white man shit in your house, man? What's all this about? I said, man, what the fuck you talking about? Oh, that's right, those are Hebrew letters around there. You know what I'm saying? But one thing I want to get into, the books and shit, when you got all these white books, you got books by Crowley, Kenneth Grant, why you supposed to be so all this black shit and all about this, that, and third, why are you reading all these white boy shit? And the thing, what I came to show them is that this book right here, which I was referring to about the magic mirrors by Pascal Beverly Randolph. Pascal Beverly Randolph was a black man. You know what I'm saying? And he experienced plenty of racism, but he's also the reason why the OTO and Blavatsky and all they shit, all they little temples and they lodges, why they shit is erect now to this point. You know what I'm saying? All them all them was influenced by brother Pascal Beverly Randolph, the Rosicrucians and all that. It's a picture of all the Golden Dawn, all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Here it is right here. Plain to see.
It's a black man.
Plain to see. You know what I'm saying? So I tell a motherfucker in a minute, hey, you know what I'm saying? This eye science, and while your ass was dead sleeping, somebody else was preserving it. And the way they preserved it was this. Because, they was burned down Alexandria libraries and shit. But most of the shit that was in that shit, them motherfuckers was taken out. They had been taken out in the first place. Taking it to the British Museum. And they got shit in the British Museum that's hidden in the Vatican, in the tunnels of the basement in the Vatican. All over. Our shit all over. And a couple years ago, I saw an article in the Riverfront Times here, and they had these Jews, so-called imposter Jews, motherfuckers, talking about Hitler and all the artifacts that were supposedly been stolen in Germany by Hitler and his crew. So they said they was going back to reclaim it and to retrieve their shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's the same thing. That's the same thing that I'm doing, no matter who wrote the damn book, because at the same time, while there's other entities are working against us, there's also entities working for us. You know what I'm saying? And those entities working for us are enslaving these crackers who have the upper hand at the particular time, who's preserving. So they saying, hey, this our shit. And even some of them, even like Kenneth Grant saying, when he referred to a lot of our shit, when he talk about our shit in the metaphysics, he say Africa, i.e. Egypt. Matter of fact, he had did a big chapter on Gerald Massey in this Starfire, Volume 2, Number 1. And he talked about they had a thing in there on Gerald Massey. He always big up Gerald Massey, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of those scholars can't even mention Gerald Massey in their books and shit. You know what I'm saying? But he big up Gerald Massey because Gerald Massey, he studied for many years going back and forth to Egypt and doing all type of shit. Then he saying all this shit is black. And even in Kenneth Grant's temple and shit, they call it the Brotherhood of Set. They call it the Black Brotherhood. The Black Brotherhood. You know what I'm saying? So with that in mind, I'm gonna go ahead and get into some of these mantras because time be flying when you're having fun. One of the mantras that you can get into, and me and him have been talking about it, and I can't even pronounce this shit, so I'm not going to even try to. I'm just going to write it down. You can pronounce it the best way you can. Once you get it off the tape, you write this shit down, you start practicing this shit.
I think it's Olalam Imal Tutulu.
Okay. Is that the Tutulu one?
Yeah, which one you talking?
I'm talking about the
Mantras for Awakening.
Cthulhu, yeah, that's right.
Olalam Imal Tutulu.
Yeah, that's right. And that's another one right here. Which one are you talking about? This one right here. And this is also another volume of Starfire, Volume 2, Number 2. And to show you how this shit works, the lady who sold me the book, I even worked her ass. She's a cracker, and she's part of some type of society and shit. I even worked her ass one night. So I used the same book that she sold me to work her to get more information from her. And this particular mantra in particular, I'm gonna write this shit down. This particular mantra in particular I use to channel energy her way to get some of the shit that I needed from her. You know what I'm saying? And it was the Cthulhu mantra. God damn, I can't find this shit. I just had the page and shit. Here it is. And I'll write it down. Which, since I'm talking about, I was channeling to give her information to let her know that I needed to get more information. I want to manipulate her. You know what I'm saying? This cracker lady, I want to manipulate her so I can get more shit. And she called me the next day, told me she had a dream that she's supposed to give me this book.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? She just started just opening up. Every time I would come into the bookstore, she would take me to the case and personally give me shit that I was looking for. Personally, give me shit. And one time I had to switch up on her because her psychic energy was getting too close to mine. So I switched up on her. So a lot of shit that she would hand to me, if I already had the shit, if I ain't want it, I said, oh, I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? And it threw her off. Well, she started looking funny and shit. So I even started going into some Black Vodun books and shit. And you know, all crackers are racist no matter what. You know what I'm saying? I even got into some of the, started going into some of the black books and shit that she had in the store when she took me, when she was in the occult section, this one little excluded glass case. I say this bitch is getting too goddamn close to me. She getting too close she's getting too close to me. Let me wipe this off. I said, she's getting too close to me, so I'm going to have to do something to get her off of me because her psychic energy is too close to mine. And I tried this particular one, which I've had much success with, by the way. And now this one right here, you say it the way you see it. So whatever the M sound is to you, that's what it is. This is it right here. Hopefully you can understand my writing. I wasn't born an artist.
But definitely not English.
Okay. Now this particular mantra here is supposed to be the ancient sounds of the gods or one of the ancient languages. You know what I'm saying? It's not a known language either. But this it comes out the Starfire Volume 2, Number 2. So if you get your hand on it, and how this cracker gets the books is that she's linked to these people in England, the Starfire people, because she's into these societies and shit. So she calls these motherfuckers and talks to them, and they send her the books personally. So a lot of shit you can't find in the United States. You can find it, that's good. Get it. You know what I'm saying? But they're not releasing a lot of this information. They only printing a certain amount of these. Matter of fact, they was printing, from my understanding, they was printing 1,000 of them. Yeah, 1,000 each of the Kenneth Grant books. So, you know what I'm saying, I was happy and fortunate to get a hold to some of this science. But what I had to do was cut her off. So I made her, you know, after I got all the shit that I wanted at the particular time, and I channeled the energy like I wanted, then I started just, you know, making her, you know, confusing and shit. And it's easy to confuse white people. It's very easy. Even Dr. Africa used to talk about that and how crackers would, because the way we talk, the melanin and the rhythm, the way we talk, we got to keep repeating ourselves over and over again to their ass. So they be like, what did you say? You got to say, I told your ass that I wasn't coming to work today. What did you say? I told your ass that I wasn't coming to work today. So, you know what I'm saying? Because of the rhythmic form and they have the lack thereof, then, you know, it's easy to confuse them. You can confuse them easy. So, you know, for those of you who love white people so much, and you think they're all that, you know what I'm saying? It's easy to confuse them. So that particular mantra, and once you do this mantra, I'm telling you, you keep on doing it, and you internalize it. God said he started internalizing this shit, man. He was getting the shakes. You know what I'm saying? Once you start internalizing these mantras and shit, then your energy, your vibration, I did this particular mantra, and I've done it several nights in a row, and I've done it. And one time, it was one entity standing in front of me. That's the Dionysus shit again. That's the Hades, the subconscious. And then I started talking to him and telling him, hey, look, I need this, that, and the third. And I've been having problems with this Negro on my job. And this brother, he was hating so much, man. I just started using it. I used the mantra one night to channel energy against this. And I don't even like fucking with niggas. I don't even like to put no energy or none of that shit on niggas. But when you acting like a cracker, plus he had a white girlfriend anyway. So it didn't even matter. You know what I'm saying? He would fuck with me every goddamn day. Come in there. He come in at 10 o'clock, late. We supposed to be there at 7:30. He come in late. And if he there on time, we late, he crying and shit, fussing and shit. This nigga was hating so bad, I just said, man, I put this on him. And then one day when I went there, I imagined a goddess Kali coming out of me in a rage. And I was standing behind him while he was sitting at the desk when we was talking. And she came out in a rage on him. And what you do is you gotta set your what you consider your real mind down. You channel it with your real mind, but then you let it go. So your subconscious mind does the work. And that's what the gods are. Even that's where the Goetia shit comes in. So what I imagine the goddess Kali had rage coming out on him. And I let it go. And the next second, the nigga was choking and shit and coughing and shit. And had to go to the bathroom and all kind of shit. He was like, well, I don't know what the fuck going on. And all this shit. And I was choking the shit out of him. So I was like, damn. I said, I'm going to try that shit again. So I had a problem. I had to go to the bank and cash my check, and this white woman was giving me all kind of problems. So I sent the Rage and Carleon. I did the same thing again. And I told the sister that was with me how I did the brother, and she didn't believe me. So we get to the bank, the white woman giving us problems, and she looking like, why is it a problem? He got 2 forms of ID. Why come he can't cash his check? And she gave me all these problems, so I did the same thing. I sent the Rage and Carleon on her, and when I did it, she's standing up there trying to count my money. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know. She's choking and coughing and shit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm letting you know, the thing is, it's not about the what you consider your real mind. It's about the subconscious mind, because that's where the imagery and all that shit come through, which I'm going to get into the posism. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to elaborate. I'm going to do this on part 2. I'm not going to elaborate too much on it, but I will tell you this. Pick up this book if you can, Sexual Magic, Pascal Beverly Randolph. And it deals with the posism. And some of the posisms, you pose a certain way for certain results. So I say, damn. And so I started thinking, and shit came to me one night. I say, damn, this the same shit as the hieroglyphs. So it's dealing with that subconscious mind, or Hades, or Osiris. The real mind, the Amenta, the deep underworld, or what they call the tunnels of Satan. So the shit came to me. I say, damn, that's the same shit as the hieroglyphics and shit. I say, okay, I see now. Then I was talking to my brother today. I say, you know what? I said, and that's how the breakdance and shit creeped in. Because it creeped in on us, and next thing you know, niggas and shit was doing the Egyptian lover and shit, doing all this shit. These are all what you call consider posism. And you do all these different things for certain purposes. And one of the things you do is, with the posism, is you can do this with the mirror magic also. So you're doing what they consider submissive posism. This is not about praying to no God or none of that shit. But submissive posism, you sit, you on your knees, and you in the mirror, and you doing submissive posism when you raising your arms up. You know what I'm saying? And you posing. And while you're doing this, it induces transit also to relate to the spiritual entities to let you know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? This is also how you can get great communication. Is another thing that I know you want to touch on that we didn't have enough time for was the pain-pleasure thing in the submissive aspect. And one of the things that I was reading in this book here, Sexuality, Magic, and Perversions, this is a real good one here. It's by Francis King. One thing that what I was dealing with that, in that book, it was talking about how Crawley, and then he had to play the bitch. You know, he's a homosexual and shit. He played the bitch in a lot of these sexual rituals. So what was the dude's name? I can't remember the cat's name. Newman. His protege or whatever. Newberg, yeah. His protege or whatever, they was getting pimped by the gods. So they wanted to get in touch with Hermes and Tahuti, whatever. And they go into these sexual rituals with each other. So Crawley would play the passive motherfucker at times, and sometimes he played the dick giver. So he played a passive motherfucker at times. So this dude, this Newberg cat is fucking Crawley in the ass and shit. Just straight homosexual faggot shit.
That was the same way like the movie on Predator. The alien had sex with the Predator. Remember that scene?
Yeah. Also in that movie, did you see when they attacked the white man? It was like the tarantulas. They were like tarantulas that didn't have a pussy face, a face like a vagina, which looks just, I think it's in this book. God damn, there's so many. It's in this book right here. I know it's in here. Right here. Look just like this.
Sure did.
Didn't it? When he attacked it, it came at him, and it attacked him. You know what I'm saying? It was dealing with that's the serpent energy that we was talking about. It was talking about particularly the goddess energy and shit, where it was attacking where it attacked the motherfucker. But anyway, So to show you what was going on with Crawley and them, the dude, he fucking Crawley, and then times the Crawley. So when they get the transmissions after they raise the energy up and shit, Hermes or Tahuti would come to them and say, you gotta do some more of these rituals. And the dude Newberg was getting exhausted and shit, and Crawley then was getting exhausted like, damn. Well, but the guys was pimping them to show you, you know what I'm saying? But they was giving us the information for ourselves. You see what I'm saying? There's other times when Crawley had to have what they called his scarlet woman to come in these rituals to arouse Newberg in order for Crawley and them to get it on. Damn. You know what I'm saying? Now, and me and you was talking about that, about certain anal sex and shit. You know what I'm saying? If you with a woman and you doing anal sex, a lot of that shit is, the anal sex, if you want to do that, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? That's not the gateway, but you can get results with that. So you and the woman, you go in with her, and this particular, this shit is real left-hand path dark shit here. And this is how some of the destruction rituals take place. So if you went to the destruction thing, which we all should be in, because like I was reading earlier, none of this shit just shouldn't be used for earthly purposes in the first place. The whole thing for this magic and this occult to come on the scene, particularly this magic or this sorcery to come on the scene, is for the purpose of destroying the demiurge and these people or these entities, you know what I'm saying, that's lording over us and enslaving us in the first place. Yep. You say what? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, also, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Because, matter of fact, me and this brother, we had two sisters over and we did a tantra ritual at a particular time. And when we did the ritual, the sisters went into trance immediately. We were doing the libations to the dark gods and shit, and the demiurge and shit creeps in, they was hating on it. So next thing you know, while we up here lighting, we had like 9 black candles and shit around the table, and we lighting this shit up, and every time we lighting the candle, these motherfucking demiurge motherfuckers coming in, grabbing the candles and throwing them. Shit was just flying across the room. Wasn't it? Shit flying across the room. We calling up on, matter of fact, we was calling out the Goetia deities. Right. We was calling out the demons of the void, and these demiurge motherfuckers was coming at us, throwing this shit. We couldn't even light the candle. It was like they was blowing this shit out. Right. Throwing this shit. And to show you how important the shit was, the women that we had, they didn't even know each other. They went into trance at the same time, and when they stood up around the shrine, butt naked, they was chanting this chant, an ancient chant that we had never heard before, and they was doing it in unison together, wasn't they? They was doing this shit in unison together. And you know what happened? We was trying to take the motherfuckers out because we was trying to destroy this shit. And this is what we got to get on, because one thing you got to understand, that when you call on the demons and you call on these dark gods and shit, but you got to understand that you are a dark god that's entrapped, that you got to fight this war. So when this first shit started happening, we started doing this ritual and shit. They throwing candles, the shit blowing out, wasn't nothing going right and shit. And next thing you motherfucking know, after we do these rituals, all type of shit start happening. My man, his truck stopped on him one time. The next thing you know, motherfuckers come to get his truck, towing his shit. They repossessed the shit. All type of shit was happening to me. All type of shit, just pure fuck up shit that nothing wouldn't go right. Got fired at the same time. We was getting fired and shit at the same time from jobs. All type of shit was happening. You know what I'm saying? But don't let that discourage you. Don't let that be a discourage to you. You just gotta make sure you keep on doing your magic, because there are niggas and crackers that are doing rituals every day, and it's particularly on Sundays when motherfuckers go to church. And I'm glad we particularly chose this day to counteract some of that energy that it was coming, that they had been throwing out today anyway, and the church is praying to this Jesus and all this other shit. You know what I'm saying? So in these rituals and stuff, don't be discouraged. You got to go forth. Well, you remember this is at a war. This is a war. You know what I'm saying? So you might lose the battle, but you never lose the war. So you might go through some shit, but you got to keep fighting. You got to realize that this is your war, and you can't give up, because if you do, what will happen is, then we gonna be, as long as you are unconscious, or as long as you deviate from it, that's that far shit. Once you deviate from it, what's gonna end up happening is, yeah, they'll give you a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? They give you a job. They give you all type of shit. You deviate from it, they give you everything in the realm of the earth. You know what I'm saying? But once you deviate from it, the other thing is that you just put us behind again. You just put us behind. So all you sorcerers out there, if shit ain't working right, you know, number one, try to find out what you're doing and what you're not doing. And the most taboo shit works. The shit that is most taboo is the shit that works the most. The shit that is most taboo to you works the most. You know what I'm saying? So it can't be just no plain old rituals. And one of the rituals I got is one that is called what I consider Moses and the Red Sea. And this or what you call the children of Israel, Moses, the Red Sea, and the children of Israel. And this ritual deals with, for those women that are still having menstrual cycles, since you are having them, if you are having them, use the blood and energy to your benefit. You know what I'm saying? Use it to your benefit. One of the rituals that I've done is what I consider Moses and the Red Sea and the children of Israel. And what this ritual entails is you get down with the sister while she's on her menstrual cycle. You know what I'm saying? Now, you're going to sacrifice in the sister while she's on her menstrual cycle. But the big thing about the whole thing is that you can't going in just for the sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? You get in it, you raise the energy. Matter of fact, you can use some of that magic mirror, the posism, or some of the yogi exercises and things of that nature before you go in and raise your energy up first. You know what I'm saying? There's one thing I've noticed that has been working for me lately is raising the energy up first, going into it and getting a higher energy, and it just becomes more higher and more potent. And with this particular ritual, you sacrifice. You sacrifice the semen, and you bust your nut inside of her. But raise the energy first. You bust the nut inside her, and if you can, make sure that she gets one too. You know what I'm saying? And what you do, and this don't sound crazy, but like I said, the most taboo shit is the shit that works. Because I've done all this shit. After you do this, then you take the fluids out of her body, and you can put this particular fluid into a jar or a glass or whatever, and you close it up. And for whatever purpose this ritual is for, you keep that in mind, you keep that as a focus, but don't use that as a focus during the sex. What you use as a focus during the sex, only thing you want to worry about is pleasing her, and her pleasing you at the time. But when that time comes, then you go ahead and do that. And once you put this shit in the jar, this energy, and I call the energy the entity. These fluids, the energy is the entity. Because you had a purpose in mind, that is the entity. So if you got a court case coming up and some shit, you can take those same fluids and shit, and you can take it and go to the grounds or where you're gonna be at, and you can discreetly pour that shit out into that area and visualize the entity and shit coming in and making shit right for you.
Okay. So you're saying, Rob, when we having the intercourse and whatnot, don't be focusing on what you're trying to accomplish right when you're having sex.
Exactly.
Just focus on pleasing her.
Exactly. Because you already.
I guess that's where I've been messing up.
See that?
I've been focusing on.
That's the thing with the mind and the subconscious mind. One is real, one is fake. It's duality to everything. Just like the mirror of the human being or the human body or this particular is a mirror of the nothingness.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's
the truth. The two pillars of truth.
Right. So, well, I'm not gonna say two pillars of truth. One is truth and one is falsehood.
Yeah, but see, it's the ideal versus the real.
Exactly. Exactly.
They're both true.
Mm-hmm.
They're both true.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two truths.
Okay.
The ideal versus the real.
Keep in mind that a lot of times, like with them, with not necessarily having to focus during the intercourse, the setup of your
workplace,
the symbols, the sigils, that shit,
all that.
The energy of your working is represented by that already.
All that.
And even if you don't want to just go way off the deep end in the ritual all the way out of your mind, but those serve to just keep a faint focus anyway. You got this symbol, that candle. You seeing all the all
these are things that are in your subconscious mind, and these things and the reason for all this, these sigils and all that, is subconscious shit. So, like what I'm telling you is that there's a mirror of everything. The subconscious mind, or the amenta, is the real mind, while the mind that we are continually thinking and seeing shit with and all this other shit is the fake mind. It's not the real mind. It's the matrix mind. You know what I'm saying? So, in essence, what I'm saying is, your subconscious already know what your purpose is.
Right.
Just like I told you, you let it go, the subconscious work on it. And the only reason you got candles and all this other shit, yeah, represent all the flames, the fire, the incense, the wind, the air, you know, whatever, the stones is the earth, the water, or the alcohol, or whatever. That's all symbolism. But at the same time, the reason why you got them shrine there in the first place, not just to give homage to these gods and shit, it's something to work on your subconscious. So when you got this shit set up in your household, and you ain't paying no attention to it, you walking past it every day, and the shit is all in your subconscious, so your magic is starting to work. And this is how you do these things. You can't get too caught up in trying to channel shit with your mind so hard. You know what I'm saying? It's not the way you channel with your mind so hard, that's not gonna work. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to work. You got to let the subconscious mind take over. And that's where the meditation comes in. Even the stuff with Ron Nepper in the Metanetter, he was teaching you that. With the breathing exercise, he said, let your subconscious mind take over. You know what I'm saying? If you see this, let it go. You start seeing images and all type of shit. Just let it take over. Don't try to control it. Don't try to control it.
So this time is time when we should go ahead and orgasm inside the female to get the...
Not at all times. I'm just saying these are certain ritual sacrifices that you do.
Right.
Okay, this is a sacrifice. Keep in mind it's a sacrifice.
Right. So
you don't wanna keep going in and busting off and shit.
Yeah, no.
And a lot of niggas use that shit as an excuse. And me here was talking about it. You know, we was some of the first niggas that came around with the shit, and all these niggas start coming up. I did some tantra last night, and all this shit. We was talking about this shit. I did some tantra last night. Because you had some sex, you did some tantra. You know, and every time you did, you bust off and shit. Right. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It's not about that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying preserving the energy for the purpose of long life, because this really ain't shit. I'm saying preserving it to enhance your energy, to enhance your aura, to be more magical, to enhance it. So when you walk out, you are a time bomb. When you walk out of it, or you go to sleep that night, after you done raise your kundalini, you raise your energy and shit, the thing is, the next day, your aura is still penetrating like that. So you walking into shit, so when you walk into obstacles and shit, certain shit will dissipate in front of your eyes. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because you have enhanced it. They are the magic. You know what I'm saying? All the symbols, the swords and all that, they try to deal with that. You know, Crawley and all them deal, you know, we got to have a sword. We got to have the stone. We got to have this. You ain't got to have none of that, because you are that. You know what I'm saying?
The truth in that is the hand. Your hand is the knife.
Yeah.
The stone.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, it's all, you know, you all that anyway. You are the stone. You got the bones. You got the blood, you breathing, you know what I'm saying? You got the kundalini energy. So you got all the elements within you.
Well, you make the elements too, you know, earth, wind, fire, and then water. You make all that with your hands.
Yeah,
So
you ain't even, but my point is, you ain't even got to do that. Now you can do that, things to affect the subconscious mind to make things more potent. But after a certain, once you raise your energy up to a certain level, then a lot of that shit you ain't gotta do. You can just sit down and think about the shit of what you want to happen and making shit, you know, basically what I say, pimping the phenomena. You know what I'm saying? That's what I consider that. So that's one of the rituals. So that's what I consider one of the rituals, and that's one of the most potent rituals.
Okay, let me clarify real quick. You said, like, for example, you said, like, you know, you got to go to court the next day. You say go ahead and pour the sperm or whatever, the cooling energy out on the ground, and then see what you want done. So that particular night, you should comment the female. I'm not saying be common every
You ain't got, now every time you do a ritual, you ain't gotta have an orgasm, spill your semen.
Right. Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm just saying this is a particular ritual that you can use.
Right.
That you can use. You can also use that same ritual and not have an orgasm and go in that court with your aura enhanced to overcome certain shit. But I'm just saying it's very powerful. That's what I'm telling you. Another ritual, which I think we both talked about, we both have experienced a lot of shit, man. But is one of the rituals in the pacts with the devil, and hopefully I got that with me.
Yeah, I saw it.
I got that with me. This book right here, you know, and it says Pacts with the Devil: The Chronicle of Sex, Blasphemy, and Liberation. And this book right here is by S. Jason Black and Crystal S. Hyatt, and it has a ritual in there, and it got some nice little shit. Stuff for Beelzebub, Lucifer, Astaroth, which they call him the Black Brother, by the way. They got the pictures and shit. It's clean. They want to make him in the image of the crackers, but it's clearly that this motherfucker has an afro. This motherfucker has an afro. You know what I'm saying? And also, so does this motherfucker, the one that they call Lucifer. You know what I'm saying? Lucifer also has an afro. You know what I'm saying? So, also, then they call, they call Astero. Now you see him, he black-faced. And shit right in here. He's black-faced.
Astero?
Astero.
Not Azeroth?
No.
Astero.
Astero.
Okay.
You can clearly see he's black-faced. Also, and they call him, they say he is the black man said to preside over the witch's Sabbath. Traditionally a law of perverse eroticism. So, also Beelzebub, the fly on the throne, he's considered the Lord of Flies. The Lord of Flies. They equate him with Satan, or in some instances I read in some books that they say he's even higher than Lucifer. And Beelzebub is another form of Khepera. Beelzebub is another, they call him the Lord of Flies. Khepera is the beetle. You know what I'm saying? That's also dealing with the raising of the Kundalini energy. Even Dr. Africa talked about that when you raise your energy and shit. It said that the certain sides of the brain that should start to move. That was they use Khepera as a form of the mind. The regeneration, that's the same thing as the Kundalini energy. And the way you hold your seed, brother, another way you hold, once you start to hold your seed, you'll understand you have to do the anal lock. Do the anal lock at the lower gate, at the perineum, and the anal lock right down there. And you do these pranic breathing. And sometimes what I've done is I've tried to cut my shit down to, at times, if I can, cut my shit down to 2 breaths a minute. You know what I'm saying? And that induces trance very heavily.
So you're holding your breath for the rest of the time?
You breathing, pranic breathing, when you breathing in, you inhaling and you filling that air up at the below your navel. And you breathing out, and you doing this rhythmic breathing and shit while you having this sexual intercourse.
That's pot belly breathing, right?
And yeah, and once you do this, when you raise that energy up, and you'll start to feel, once you do those anal locks, you keep doing those pranic breathing, you'll start to feel that shit come to your feet. And your feet and shit will get hot, legs get hot, there's a motherfucker back, and you start to feel that energy rise up. You know what I'm saying? Once the energy rise up, another thing that happen is that you'll start to feel like you got to break wind. Because the semen and the energy is trying to escape its best way it can. So you got, in some instances, some of the cultures use what they call the wooden bond. You know what I'm saying? To keep the energy from escaping. You know what I'm saying? And when it gets up to the head and shit, you start what you need to do once you get to that point and you feel like you're gonna lose control, you got to start gritting your teeth. Start gritting your teeth. It's also a story of Shiva, when Shiva said Shiva got pregnant, and he was pregnant for 100 years with Sukra. And what Shiva did, that whole story, what it's talking about, is Shiva raising that energy, or you raising that energy up, and what happens is you got to swallow that energy. And it comes through the mouth, and you can taste the shit, and you just take it back, you put your tongue at the top, like a palate at the top of your mouth, and you swallow that energy back down, and be in what they call the pregnancy, the male pregnancy. That also considered like the Buddha and shit with the big stomach and shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's what that story about Shiva and Sukra is talking about, raising that energy up and taking it back down. You know what I'm saying? I think we're gonna drop on that on part 2 of this next Sunday. When he's gonna get it, I think he got some shit he's gonna drop on the Christmas thing. So that's what the whole thing about Sukra and Shiva is. When she was impregnated for 100 years, and after the 100 years, what happens? Then he releases. That's his sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? And one thing about it, I'm telling you this: you can keep on raising that energy up, but it's at times, man, you gonna have to let that thing go. It's times you gonna have to let it go.
Like he was saying earlier, you gotta sweat it out or something. Otherwise, like you said, was somebody vomit up gray stuff and died?
And know how to steam it.
They didn't know how to steam it.
The thing about it, you know, dealing with the alchemy of the whole thing is once you raising that energy, the thing at your root chakra and all that, that shit turns to lead. That's what they consider lead. This is the alchemy, turning metals into gold and shit. The alchemy turns into lead. And by the time it gets to your pineal gland, it turns into mercury. And that's the whole thing. Mercury is Tahuti, Hermes, and that's another form of melanin. It's the alchemist, the magician also. You know what I'm saying? That's why the Book of Thoth, which deals with the tarot in a different aspect of the melanin, is all about Tahuti, Thoth, the magician. You know what I'm saying? Once you get once you raise that to your pineal gland, what they consider turns into mercury. That's a communication energy. Mercury is a communication energy, and this is one of the ways that you can communicate to the realms, to the other realm, your original or the primal, as Curtis would say, the primal universe. You know what I'm saying? The primal universe, which also goes into what they call Sirius B. And when you're dealing with that, then you're starting to deal with some of these entities that, all this shit is linked. You start to deal with the entities of Necronomicon. And one of them was Dagon, and he dropped on that earlier. Dagon, and Dagon is the fish people. The fish people. They call them the fish people.
Why do they call them the fish people?
Because of his primal state of water. You know what I'm saying? Of water, which is the original state, what they call noon. You know what I'm saying? That is the original state of this particular chaos thing. That is the melanin, you know what I'm saying? So they call them the fish people. They call them the Dagon. And in this book here, which I'm going to bring up again, Starfire, this is volume 1, number 4. I think you already got it. Did you get this yet?
No, you wouldn't snatch that motherfucker up. You bought them all out and shit, so.
Yeah. This one right here, and it goes into the Dagon, and it clearly states, which I've been saying, that Dagon and Dogon is one and the same.
Damn.
The Dogons of what Mali in Africa, what they consider their god or their chief deity, Nomo, is a fish god. Is the fish god. And that deals with the Vesica Pisces, and it's a book, good book right here to get. The Pale Fox. Great book, man. It even goes into some demiurge shit in here.
I gotta say something since you on this.
Huh?
Now, I was in the jacuzzi one day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just seeing how long I could hold my breath.
Mm-hmm.
I was up under water for over an hour, and I was breathing.
Mm.
And that's when I said, I know that we got ancestors or some people or whatnot living in the water. Then when I started learning this conscious shit, the people from Atlantis and whatnot, the great mother goddess and whatnot, I said to myself, white people know that's why they deep sea diving.
Mm-hmm.
We got people that's living in the water because I know I can do it. I don't know if y'all ever done it, but you can do it. Your breathing is rotating right here. You're letting out just enough breath in the water or the atmosphere or whatnot, but you're not inhaling enough back in where it'll drown you.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta remember, we breathe water for 9 months.
Right.
In 9 months.
Yeah.
We breathe water.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so that is the same, and even in this book here, it even talks about, even gives reference to, I think I brought that, the Sirius mystery. Yeah, there it is right there, by Robert Temple. The Sirius mystery. Yeah. The Sirius mystery. Great book, man. And the motherfucker, even in his introduction, he talked about how motherfuckers thought he was crazy. Because he had wrote the book a long time ago. What did he originally write the book in the 70s or something? Originally, then he had to revise it and shit and tell a story on how when he first wrote the book and how he went out and searched out this shit with the Dogons in Africa, how people was talking about how crazy he was and shit. You know what I'm saying? But he went into it, and he was talking about this particular star that exists behind the sun. Sirius B, the sun behind the sun.
What's his name? Robert?
Robert Temple. Robert Temple, the sun behind the sun. You know what I'm saying? So we're dealing with the sun behind you, dealing with Amun Ra. That's dealing with the Amenta again. That is that same gateway that we're talking about. That same gateway that you want to start using, trying to use that mind as much as possible. You know what I'm saying? If you want to overcome this shit. You know what I'm saying? So it even goes, and here it goes, it says, in the Sirius Mystery, 1976, Robert Temple has related the celebration of his 50-year period of the 49/50-year orbital period of Sirius B around Sirius A, the dog star. In the Jewish Kabbalah, these cycles of time become identified with cosmic periods of eonic progression and a final release in the Great Jubilee. In the context of litany, this is to be identified with the eon of Dagon's rising. And Dagon's rising is also dealing with that serpent Kundalini energy. For some reason, this particular energy for some reason, it is the greatest, supposed to be the greatest energy in what they fear the most. That's why they always talk about that shit in the Bible, about the serpent and shit, and how the serpents are so evil and all this other shit. Matter of fact, when the dude who wrote the book wrote this, when they wrote this shit, they was talking about how the word Dagon numerically broke down to the same name as Leviathan. The Leviathan. So I got a little mantra here that you can also try, that I've tried this one too. And you can keep doing this particular mantra over and over again to rise up the energy. You ain't got to particularly go into just the sexual alchemy of these mantras. You can do them alone. So this right here, this particular mantra, it's a whole big, it's called a litany of Dagon, and it has 27 little things you say, but me particularly, I'm not gonna say all that shit. I'm gonna get me to the shit that I need to say, and I'm gonna say that. I'm not going through all that shit. All that shit is for white folks. and they're uninitiated. Not saying that I know everything or I'm so great with all this, with this shit, but I'm just saying, for those who are just getting into this and that are not experienced with this particular magic thing, let me wipe this again. But write this a little bigger. You can see the Kundalini is rising already in here because of what we talking about.
Motherfucker been here before 3-4 hours ago. It said they left.
Yeah. So you can try to do this one right here. In this particular mantra.
I see what those Stargate books are.
Starfire.
Starfire.
Uh-huh.
They got mantras in them.
Oh yeah. Not only that, it breaks down codes and shit, man. It breaks down a hella codes. It's just like now these white folks, they just putting it out so plain. They put it out so plain now. And also, and it's also this dagon is dealing with Baal of the Bible, what they consider in the Bible and shit. Baal.
Why do y'all wonder or ponder? Do you ever ponder why all of a sudden the white folks are starting to release this stuff?
Well, they've been releasing it, but what I'm saying is they releasing it so clear now. Because, you know, if you went into like Madame Blavatsky's books and shit, you already had to study some shit before you even read any of her stuff. Because the one sister said, my partner who took himself out, he left his house and these books and shit to these people. So he had the book, The ISIS Unveiled. So you know she trying to get into this ISIS thing, and she went and picked up the book ISIS Unveiled, thinking that she gonna try to find out something about ISIS, like just blatantly and shit. You know what I'm saying? But it was dropping so much shit, and she said I tried to read, I could not read, I wasn't getting it. I said because you gotta do some studying and some shit to even break down Blavatsky, some of Blavatsky's work. Because but now this shit, Kenneth Grant and them, they breaking down the numbers and the codes and everything, geometry and everything. But anyway, this is the particular. Hopefully you can get this. This is the particular mantra, and you can just repetitiously continue to do this mantra over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying? You keep on chanting this mantra. And the other thing is about these mantras. Now this is powerful, but the other thing is even if you just said a word, if you said Shiva, or if you said Kali, if you said Sut, or you said Sit Typhon, that is the mantra. That is the mantra. It's not in particular that you got to chant all these chants and shit, but that is the mantra. That is the mantra in itself. You know what I'm saying? Because when you with the word comes the attribute of the word.
You know what I was thinking though, y'all? Even if you don't say there are mantras, right, that's in the books and whatnot, as I say, you might say, Hidabo. Even if it's not that mantra that goes for that code or entity or whatever, it's the thought that's in your mind that you're trying to produce.
Intentionality.
Exactly.
Your
You know?
intent.
So like you said, make up your own shit.
Yeah.
Because what if you never go to the library? You never read their book. You know?
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
But it is best that you read.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And for those people who always, you know, got a problem, like I was talking about earlier, everybody got a problem with this shit, and everybody is running away from it. You know, people see me. I was telling Bobby Hemmett this when I was down in Atlanta. People see me on the street or something, hey, what's up, Satan? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, God damn, you know, it's an honor. It's an honor, but at the same time, when I be studying this shit, they be like always talking about, well, you all into all this shit with these white folks, and to show you that we running from it. Even Crowley in this book here, The Equinox, This is the Equinox Volume 7, number 1. And it's a big volumes of this shit. You know what I'm saying? This is shit on the inside of the OTO. And it even goes into this particular thing where they talk about Yahweh, you know what I'm saying? But in essence of Yahweh not just being not Yahweh just being the Yaldabaoth deity, but how they took this shit and reversed it. Because the original Yahweh wasn't a Yaldabaoth deity. You see what I'm saying? Or demiurge deity. You see what I'm saying? And you can see that even in the spelling, what they consider Yod, He, Vod, He. Even in the spelling. And it's a mystery behind this shit too. Even in the spelling. You see that? Yod, He, Vod, He. Now the Yod obviously represents the fire. You know what I'm saying? But even if you was talking about the goddess Eve, because at one particular time, even the Jews wouldn't even say Yahweh. They wouldn't even say it. They was afraid to, or they said, you can't say that name. You know what I'm saying? But that even goes back into, they said they're furious or afraid of what they call the goddess Lilith. You know what I'm saying? The goddess of death, Lilith. You know what I'm saying? Who is also supposed to be, in some instances, they say that she is, and Eve is another form of her, or she is Adam's first wife. You know what I'm saying? And even if you even try to spell, if you spell Eve in the Kabbalistic word, you'll get this. You'll get this here. You'll get, if you spell it, this is the letter you have to use. He, Vav, He. Eve. You know what I'm saying? And in here, even in Crowley's book, they said Eve is an Egyptian moon god or goddess. And it even goes into the thing where we reject this. And he was talking about how these guys who have wrote this story about how they went into to meet their friend and shit, and they had the friend had a black woman as a slave there, and also they had called they was talking about the woman. They said that when they went there, they said it's thrice 30. The travel of the sun chariot, we entered the city of whores, where the children of Amun-Ra were enslaved, confused that their gods had been whipped from them, and welts of their pain drinking away the memory of the god kings, even as the drunken warrior that knoweth not the house of his spirit. And it even goes into the whole thing, when they telling this whole little story, and it goes into a little poem thing. And it's obviously talking about us. And they said, the dude said, we traveled to the hut of our cousin whose slave woman had the honor of confusion and anger, of quick doubt. She spoke as a child that had been slapped and abused by her mother, no odds. Spake she the metaphor of survival, enriched by the lust of her skin. My cousin and scribe left me to frolic with this maiden, knowing that my true desire was to hear the beat of her heart and to touch her tongue, the story that did fancy outward. Knowing, saying this is the white man that's coming in, they want to suck the energy of this black woman. Then it goes into it, it says, what have I to do with thee, I ask, thou slave woman of Yahweh? Did you not wander with your people to the city of whores seeking spices? Remember the Milan spice? Me and you was talking about that. You dropped that in Doom, Milan spice. Seeking spices for the bronze sword of the slave lords. Then it says, she answered, I shall not bring blessings to the slave lords or bow before a priest of sin. Tell me, priest, the name of the true God. Even my answer being, I know not the name of my brother's God, nor the right that invokes him. Amen, said I, and worship unto him that liveth forever, the true God. And it said, in so many words, it went into the whole thing, where it talked about how he was trying to tell her who her God was and who her ancestors had as their gods and who they worship. And they said, ran from me, she did. She ran. It's the same shit when it comes to this stuff that we dealing with. When it comes to consciousness, black people will tell you up front in so many words, I don't want to know shit. They'll tell you up front in so many words, I don't. And it's so ironic how so many people can sit up and judge all these different things, all these religions, all Satanists, and you go in their motherfucking house, they got 10 books on the goddamn shelf, and all of them are Bibles and concordance and shit. They ain't got nothing else, but they can tell you about it, some goddamn Bible.
They don't know the books they got.
Right, you know what I'm saying? So, you can't tell me, about nothing unless you didn't try to study this shit yourself. So what I'm saying is, don't be out here, like my man said, don't be out here trying to enlighten all these motherfuckers and all this shit, because, the apocalypse is on.
It's the thing of stop trying to humanize animals.
Right. And one of the things I want to get into in this book, this real good book, and I'm going to break it off here. And when we talking about the apocalypse is not what we think it is. This is the book right here, Synchronicity and the Seventh Seal, by Peter Moon. Good motherfucking book, man. And it goes into Babylon. I wish I can just do a whole lecture on this book itself. You know what I'm saying?
Mythology?
Oh, man, it goes into the goddess Babylon and the invocation of Babylon and all this stuff.
Oh,
And, man, I'm just going to drop a little bit about the apocalypse because the last ritual I'm going to do, which I'm going to tell, deals with the apocalypse. So it says the apocalypse itself is one of the most misunderstood terms I have ever encountered. When people read the book of Revelation, they do not really realize it is based upon earlier sources, and as said earlier, that it was copied and contoured to fit the social times of the Roman Empire. It is not an original work at all in its own right, but is an interpretation and manipulation of earlier works. Then it goes into APO of apocalypse and calypse. APO means away from, or to take cover off, or to uncover. Calypse is another way of saying the spelling of Calypso, the nymph goddess who was queen of the island of Ogigos in the Atlantic, that's Atlantis, and kept Odysseus sequestered on the island for 7 symbolic years of sexual initiation. And this is all about the Kundalini, what I'm talking about. And it further breaks down, I'm ready to wrap it up. The word Calypso further breaks down to Kali. Kali, or ipso, which means by the way of Kali, or by the fact of Kali. Kali, of course, is the Hindu goddess of time and has many manifestations, one which is destruction. Thus, the apocalypse really means the revelation or the uncovering of the goddess, which we consider Kali. And that is the destruction goddess. And the last ritual I'm going to give you, and we can wrap it up, is the graveyard ritual. When you go to the graveyard, like I said, the things that are most taboo is the things that works the most. You go to the graveyard when you can, and you do this particular sexual ritual in the graveyard. Particularly when the woman is on her menstrual cycle. And in that essence, when you let her drop those fluids into the graveyards, because the earth is known as the great graveyard, and what that is doing is bringing the blood back into the Titans. In your imagination, bring the blood back into the original Titans to destroy this motherfucker. And that's it. That's the apocalypse. That is the ritual of Kali. Because Kali is the destroyer goddess and the goddess of death and the skulls in the graveyard. Chaos.
Une ombre s'étendra sur les terres, et le mal naîtra dans le ciel, et la mort viendra des cieux. Tales from the dark side. Regarde-moi. Moi, un garde la fidèle du mal. Regarde-moi bien. Mon pouvoir pour tous les temps, toutes les galaxies, toutes les dimensions. Tales from the dark. Tales from the dark. Dark side. Tales from the dark side.